Under the Governor's Executive Order number 5, issued on March 16th, this public meeting is being held via remote participation. Please note the agenda and supporting documents are on the village's website, www.homerglen.org. This meeting is called to order. We could all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Trustee Gray.
Present.
Trustee Caprio.
Present.
Trustee Rogers.
Present.
Trustee Suisse.
Present.
Trustee Pazamino.
Present.
Mayor Yukich.
Present. Are there any amendments to the agenda? Okay. Is there a motion to accept Mayor Yukich's appointment to Brock Backel for the vacant trustee position under the next regular scheduled village trustee election in April of 2021?
I so move.
Trustee Caprio?
Second.
Gray? Any discussion? Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Trustee Rogers.
Aye.
Trustee Suisse. Aye. Trustee Caprio.
Aye.
Trustee Pazamino.
Aye.
Trustee Gray.
Aye.
Motion carries. So, Brock, if you want to come up here, we'll... Good. Okay. Please raise your right hand. I do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Illinois, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of trustee in the village of Homer Glen to the best of my ability.
I will.
Thank you. You're in.
Thank you.
Brock has been with the village now for the last, 5 years now. He was on the planning commission for the first 4, and then this year he became the chairman for the planning commission. He's done a lot for the village. He knows this village. And now when anyone has any questions about some of the buildings or how it works, Brock can kind of enlighten us. So I'm very happy to say that I think we made a great pick for this one, and I'm sure he's going to be very good with the village and to the village.
Thank you.
Thank you again. Reports and communications from the mayor and other officers. With the COVID-19 pandemic we have all been living through, it is easy to forget about all the positive things that are happening in Homer Glen. Every year I give a State of the Village presentation recapping the events and projects from the previous year. This year this presentation was canceled, but there are many wonderful things that did occur last year. We can't forget these things, and with the help of staff, I did my first virtual State of the Village and would like to share it tonight with the board and the community. It is very important not to forget everything we've accomplished together. So if you want to... 1 second here.
Hello, I'm Mayor of the Village of Glen, and welcome to our first virtual State of the Village Annex. Normally, I provide an annual report to the community each spring in person. This spring, our world changed dramatically due to the pandemic caused by COVID-19. This is a time of difficulty and uncertainty, and I want to assure you that the village continues to do everything we can to help our residents, businesses, and organizations. Every day, the village is updating our website with important information for our residents and local businesses. You can sign up on our website to get this information emailed to you or like us on Facebook. I, along with the village trustees, created the COVID-19 Emergency Small Business Assistance Program for all our local businesses. To date, we have provided $150,000 in assistance. I also loosened the liquor licenses to allow local restaurants to sell sealed beer and wine, along with carry-out food. The village also deferred the payment of our liquor licenses for 90 days for our local restaurants. We continue to explore other programs that could help our community. While the doors of Village Hall and all have been closed, staff is still providing essential services to the community. We've been holding village board meetings both at the Village Hall and remotely. The public can still attend the meetings or call them local to listen. We plan on reopening the Village Hall in June, but we'll still follow the CDC recommendations. The Village Board approved the first fiscal year budget in April that is adjusted to correspond to the COVID-19 emergency. I want to thank all of our healthcare workers and first responders who make a role of work during this crisis, who are truly our local heroes. The community has come together to create ways to support each other. We have seen drive-by birthday and graduation parades, handmade cards made for our local seniors that were delivered to Marion and Victoria villages. Handmade masks were donated to the village for our residents. A truckload of food was collected for the local food pantry. This is one of them, kindness and generosity. As a backbone of our local economy, we urge all residents and businesses to help support one another during the COVID-19 pandemic. The importance of our local restaurants and businesses cannot be overstated. While it is challenging to imagine life returning to normal, the fact is that the village of Glen is well positioned during this crisis and for the future. Hope you will find this 2019 annual report uplifting. As a young village of just 19 years, our work is focused on building a strong foundation, and the framework for our future is beginning to emerge. So many significant initiatives have rolled out just this past year. Let me tell you more. Building and enhancing the quality of life and amenities for our families is at the core of your village does. This is a pride of our community. Welcome to Heritage Park. Since 2018, over 50 acres of Heritage Park has been developed. Completed in 2019, the active core located in the middle of Heritage Park will be open for the first full summer this year. The 7-acre active recreation area provides opportunities for all ages, including a nature-themed play area, bocce ball courts, tennis courts, pickleball courts, sand and volleyball courts, a fitness area, and a state-of-the-art gymnast course. ADA accessible swings will be added this year to offer even more for families to do. 2019 was a fantastic year for special events in the area. Community Fest took place at Heritage Park for the first time, kicking off by another spectacular fireworks show. The second annual Chalk It Up Sidewalk Chalk Art Contest nearly doubled participation. We also had new events including Movie Under the Stars, Trunk and Treat, which had thousands of attendees. The village invested in new holiday lights for the homeowners for the holidays, and the lighting ceremony far exceeded our expectations. The new sled hill at Heritage Park was also extremely popular during the winter, and there is much more to come. Currently, the village's architects are drafting designs and engineering plans for the future additions to the park. We are also focusing on the rest of the village. After months of considering neighborhoods throughout the community, Glen Walk was selected for the next neighborhood park. The village owned a lot which is perfectly sized for a playground and addresses an area in need that was identified in our 2013 master plan. Residents have selected their favorite playground designs, and construction should start in the park very soon. The village receiving an early present last Thanksgiving with the opening of 159th Street to all 4 lanes of traffic. I want to thank the businesses on 159th and the residents for their patience and understanding throughout this project. The 159th Street corridor provides a tremendous opportunity for smart development. Along with the park department and major roadway improvements, have come the opportunity to improve walkability in the community. Last summer, we constructed 2 trails that connect neighborhood subdivisions to Heritage Park. These neighborhood path connections allow residents to skip the aisle for a beautiful stroll or a bike ride in the park. The biggest addition to the trail system is a new bike path along 159th Street that runs along the north side of the corridor for 5 miles. The village completed construction of Finland Creek Sanitary Sewer and 159th Street water main last year. These projects expand utility service to over 750 acres of village land and provide access to desirable Lake Michigan water. The multi-year planning efforts to extend and support utilities to our western border helps position the village for future growth. Our new village included a large number of drainage issues which we incorporated in 2001. During medium to heavy storm events, excess storm water contributes to flooding adjacent residential lots and regular roadway flooding in certain locations. Currently, construction has begun on drainage improvements in Country Woods subdivision, construction on a dam project for Standard Ridge, States will begin in the spring. The 2 remaining drainage projects for Meadowcrest and Chickasaw Hills, 6th edition, will go out for bid later this year. Construction to start this fall or next spring, the 2020 Drainage Improvement Program to concentrate on flooding along Eagle Ridge Drive and Woodbine subdivision. The Village of Glen is updating its 2005 comprehensive plan and design guidelines to provide a renewed vision, strategies, guide future growth. Building upon the Village's 2018-21 strategic plan, the comprehensive plan update will address core community issues such as housing, economic development, infrastructure utilities, and potentially opportunity sites. The project launched in May of 2019 and is anticipated to be completed this year. The Village Board approved the first deliverable in late January with an update to the Village's sign regulations. Our new sign regulations are more business friendly while still holding high design standards. The Village has also been holding meetings with community members and village officials to plan the future. The strategic planning process identified the need for consistent branding to help build a sense of community identity. The Village is working with a firm to update its branding strategy and improve gateway signage. The branding project will give the Village identity to the marketplace and help promote its assets. There is no change to the Village city. Even with all these projects and expanding services, I'm proud to announce that it became debt-free in 2019. We paid off our debt early, which saved the Village $500,000 in interest. The Village is committed to financial excellence and integrity. The 18th year in a row. The Village of Homer Glen has received a certificate of achievement for excellence in financial reporting. The village's growing retail base generates a significant amount of sales tax revenue that helps the village to operate without levying municipal property taxes or utility taxes for general operations. Additionally, we ended last year's budget with a $700,000 operating surplus. Due to COVID-19, we are not projecting a surplus for this year, but we have adjusted both revenues and expenditures down to account for the economic downturn. The village has also made its last payment on the incentive agreement with Light. This means the village will receive and retain 100% of the 1% sales tax generated by the Meyer store, saving the village $270,000 annually. Standard & Poor's reports the village's rating at AA+, a rating of strong capacity to meet all of our financial commitments. The village board and I understand that important partnerships have been with the local business community. Supporting local businesses to bring about positive economic growth is a key objective to the village. The village has been successful in attracting new businesses. We welcomed 15 new businesses, including 5 new restaurants in 2019. Also, 9 existing businesses were retained through relocations, expansions, new ownerships, and renovations. Over 52,000 square feet of commercial space was filled as a result of new and retained businesses after the last year. The village realized over $6,047,000 of private investment and improvements by both new and existing businesses in 2019. Among the many business success stories of the year are Hardwood Home and Auto, Good Life Physical Therapy, Aldi, and the Megaplex. Major sales tax producer Hardwood Home and Auto acquired Circle Tractor and will continue to operate from that location until a larger facility is constructed and ready for occupancy this fall. The groundbreaking took place in October for the new 28,000 square foot building. Good Life Physical Therapy purchased the site on Taelevale, just south of First American Bank, and broke ground last October. The owner is building a new 6,000 square foot facility this spring for occupancy in the fall. Aldi has expanded their sales floor with a major renovation to the store that opened in 2003. The expansion enabled Aldi to add more refrigeration and bring in about 300 new items, including more organic, fresh, and on-the-go choices. The owners of the Megaplex invested in significant upgrades to the facility. Megaplex is a new home for attack volleyball. Retailers are attracted to housing activity. The square footage growth will be developed with 76 townhomes and 3 acres of buildable commercial footage. The malls are now open and the homes have already started to sell. In 2019, the village partnered with 2 private investor groups to complete a market opportunity report for a possible regional sports complex in this village. While the report indicated a robust market opportunity for Homer Glen in the sports and tourism industry, additional analysis and work still need to be concluded to ensure the right fit for our community. No final decision has been made on this project at this time. This year will mark a critical milestone in the process to acquire the pipeline supplying water to our community and 4 other area communities that make up the northern Will County water reaches. A jury trial will determine the fair market value of the system. The 2 main goals in purchasing the pipeline are: 1, to stabilize or reduce water rates by removing the profit pool. And 2nd, to gain control of our water infrastructure to have a greater say over water excess well into our future. The village has been making an effort to expand our communications and social media presence. News alerts, village reminders, and even announcements can all be found on our website, homerglenil.org. Followers of our Facebook page have increased by 48% over the past year. We've also added SurveyMonkey, a digital survey platform to our communications tool to hear from you. In 2019, Village Messenger newsletter made a return. The spring and summer newsletter should be in your mailboxes this May. Please look for and read it. I hope that you have found this State of the Village message helpful and informative. We have much to be proud of. In closing, I want to thank the village board, our volunteers and staff, and our intergovernmental partners for all the hard work. I am excited about what we are accomplishing, and I look forward to the village's 20th year anniversary next year. As we navigate the current uncertain times together, the most important thing to me and the village board is that you are safe. I ask that you please continue to follow the governor's guidance. Be kind, be safe, and tough.
Okay, thank you. Next would be public comment. Oh, wait, we got to start with trustees. We're going to start down with Ruben.
Nothing to report, Mayor.
Thank you. Carlo?
Nothing to report. Brock, welcome to the board.
Thank you.
Sharon?
No report, Mayor, but welcome.
Thank you, Sharon.
Beth?
Just basically, the Glen Walk parked, so everyone knows that is continuing forward. That hasn't been stopped due to the virus, so that the staff has been working with the contractor to make sure that we're still staying on schedule, and it appears that we are still on schedule and hopeful to have that open, probably the later part of the summer, early fall.
Good. Thank you. Brock, you want to?
Sure. I'd like to say it's an honor to sit on this board surrounded by such a great group of dedicated people. And I look forward to dedicating my energies to doing good for our village and good for our residents. And thank you so much.
Thank you. Keith?
No report, Mayor, but again, I'd like to say welcome to Brock and look forward to working with you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, next would be village clerk.
I have no report, but welcome, Brock.
Thank you.
You. Eric? Village attorney?
Welcome, Brock, and nothing else, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Public safety officials?
Quick one, Your Honor. Thank you. Welcome, Brock, first of all.
Thank you, officer.
Just a reminder to the public that ATVs, well, let me back up. We're getting numerous complaints throughout the village. Numerous towns are getting them. I just want to remind the public, ATVs are illegal on the roadway. They're illegal along the ComEd easement under the power lines. They're illegal on the trails, sidewalks, or any property you don't have permission to be on. I bring this up because people think, they're fun. I get it, okay? But it affects the public around you, okay? Our main concern is the safety of the public and the riders, of course. So we want them to just follow the law and be careful. There's also such a thing as noise pollution. Some people back up to this easement and it's driving them crazy, all the noise back there. So just have respect for those around you. That's all we're asking. The other thing is getting calls like that is pulling us away from keeping this community safe because we have to answer a call for service. The southwest suburbs have seen a big increase in burglaries to vehicles, the theft of motor vehicles as well, and taking us off of active patrol to answer ATV complaints and calls like that is pulling us away from actively patrolling to try and keep the bad guys out of town. Remember, speaking of stolen vehicles, do not leave your keys or your fobs in your car. Simple as that. I don't care if it's parked on the street, in your driveway, or in your garage. Take your keys and valuables out. Surrounding towns are seeing guys walk straight up a driveway. If your garage door is open, even if you're home, they're walking right into the garage, trying the car and taking the car right out of the garage, okay? So that leads to my next point, folks. Do not be afraid to call us. Please, please, please. If you see something suspicious, something doesn't look right, give us a call. Even solicitors, they're not supposed to be soliciting without a permit. Give us a call. Just to remind you, any emergency, 911. If you can't find the sheriff's department number, don't be afraid. Don't be fumbling through papers. I don't know where stuff's at. 911 will get us. Non-emergency, for past tense information or whatever, 815-727-8575. That'll get you to our dispatch, okay? You would just hit 0 when the recording comes up. And that's about it, Mayor, unless anybody has anything. Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Village manager?
I don't even talk about that. Trustee Backel, welcome to the village. We look forward to working with you.
Thank you.
That's it? All right, one other thing that Lieutenant didn't mention is everyone lock up the cars. They've been vandalizing them, but now with the notices that we put out there, they have an idea that at least we smartened up and we're locking our car doors. I guarantee you most of you got a garage door open right over your visor. Once they get in the car, they can do anything they want with it. So please lock the doors when you leave. And like I said, please make sure you take your keys with you.
Can I follow up on that, Mayor, real quick?
Yes, you
Everybody,
can.
just real fast. It's not like the old days where they're slim jimming the door and getting in and hot wiring a car. That's not happening anymore, okay? It's simply the car is unlocked and the keys are in it, or valuables are in it. That's what we're seeing, okay? Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, next would be public comment. Okay, there's a few on here about mugshots, and we are going to have that in the legislative section. But if you come up and it's already been mentioned, please wait till we start talking about it. In the meantime, we're going to, Mr. Dazbowski.
Hey all, my name is Ike Jabrowski. I'm here with my wife Ermina. As some of you may or may not know, we own some vacant property on Onondaga Trail. Have been trying to build a home for our family there for the past 4 years. There are some long-standing flooding issues in the area, which was really evident during this last storm here. But I would like to get an update on the drainage project improvement, specifically for Onondaga Trail. And then also, I would like to, there was discussion or the possibility of the village purchasing the lots from us, a real estate purchase from the resident. I would be interested to know what your thoughts are on that, and if you had further consideration. After 4 years, we feel it'll be beneficial for both the village as well as us, the residents, to come to some kind of agreement that would be amenable for us. And I think it would benefit the area if you use that area for further drainage improvement.
Okay, we can find out for you. We're not going to discuss it tonight. We can find out for you. We'll have.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting it to be discussed tonight, but I would just like to have the trustees had a chance to discuss the purchase. Have you thought about that at all?
Right now with the pandemic and everything that's going on, a lot of this hasn't been talked about. We're trying to figure out how to run the village and make sure that everyone's got what they need and how we can make that life simpler for them. But I will make sure that we, Mr. Baber, if you want me in there, I'll be in there. And then the village manager will be in there too. So we can get a date set for you and we'll give you.
Can we get a date set to speak with you?
With me?
I'm sorry, who's speaking? I can't tell because of the mask. George. Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, if I could just interject here. The resident is aware that we have discussed this. This is a closed session item, the purchase or sale of real estate. And his attorney has been advised of the decision made by the village. But if he wants to meet with you and me to discuss that further, I'm more than happy to set that up with you.
Can we meet with the trustees also?
We can't do that. Any more than two, we can't do.
Can we meet with you and the development, the new trustee, Mr. Brock?
Yeah, we can do that. It's got to be at his convenience, so we can't do it in the middle of the day. We'd have to do it in the afternoon.
Absolutely.
Most of everyone up there still works.
Absolutely, understood.
Okay.
I do as well.
Okay.
Thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome. We'll get all of you right away too.
Thank you.
Kelly Klein.
Hello. I just wanted to quickly thank you all for taking the time to consider the Orange Proclamation tonight, especially since this is now the second year in a row that you've done this. Very much appreciated. Especially this year during the coronavirus pandemic, which rightfully so is on the forefront of the priorities list for everybody. The reason why I asked that we still consider the Wear Orange Proclamation for the first week of June is because the coronavirus pandemic has actually led to some panic-fueled gun purchases, which means a rise in domestic violence, suicides, and unintentional shootings. With kids out of school and now home for the prolonged summer, I think that it's more imperative now than maybe even last year when I originally proposed this proclamation to you, to bring awareness to issues like this, particularly safe storage. So this year, I am going to pledge to wear orange for my former student, Emilio, as well as the rest of our youth who may not be at high risk for the virus, but are at high risk for gun violence in America. According to the CDC, the #1 leading cause of death for adolescents currently is unintentional injuries, suicides, and homicides. I hope that the Homer Glen community can join me in this pledge while also upholding the Second Amendment rights of responsible gun ownership. Thank you once again for considering this. I very much appreciate your time, and be well.
Thank you. Rebecca Mooring?
Mason?
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 Oh, that's a
And
weird.
Jeff Peterson?
Yeah, we're together.
Okay.
So Jeff and I are both from Evelyn Gate North area. We're both on the HOA. Jeff's the president, I'm the treasurer for the HOA. So what can I take this out? Oh, sorry, take this out. What we're here for is we just wanted to, and I'm not even sure if we're at the right meeting or we should be at the Parks meeting. We have attended the Parks meeting in the past. As you know, Evelyn Gate North Park was taken over by the village a handful of years ago, 3 years ago or so. And there have been some improvements done to the park. There was, improvements around the equipment and drainage improvements were done. And we are on the list, I believe, based on the budget, to have improvements done to one of the gazebos. There's going to be some concrete poured. But here, we're just here for general maintenance of the parks, and not just our park, but the other parks. I find that, so I've been a resident here for 3 years now, and it seems in the springtime that the grass does not get cut very well. And I thought maybe it was a one-year thing or too much rain. We have attended these meetings before in the past. But the parks they really look kind of bad. I've actually got some pictures of our park. It hasn't been cut in 10, 11 days, or even more than that. My picture is from the 20th, and as of the 20th, it hadn't been cut. Then I went around over the weekend. I went to Heritage. Looked like there's a lot of weeds, and the grass was a little bit long. Stonebridge Park. Last time we brought this up, I was told that there's minimal staff to cut the grass in May because of college students or something. I'm not exactly sure if that's still the case, but I did want to go on record to say that they just really don't look very good in the month of May.
And actually, even in the summertime, they probably cut it more often, but it still has, there's a lot of weeds, so there's not anybody putting any fertilizer down or putting any grass down in not only our park but the other parks. We're just hoping that coming here today we could potentially get a little bit more effort put into the appearance.
The appearance of the grass.
You talk about building a new park, which is great, but if the parks as a whole actually look better, I think it would be a wise investment and not cost that much money to do so.
Right. And the whole scope of things, the amount of money that's been spent on Heritage alone over the last couple of years, and then proposed for this year, which is another $4 million or something proposed for park development. Is that correct? No. I thought it said Heritage Park option B 4.2.
They're giving us prices of what it would cost.
Okay. So just general maintenance of the grass.
And then the second issue that we wanted to talk about.
Wait, let's address the first one real quick.
Okay.
It has been raining a lot. You can't put poison down for the weeds with it rain. You can't do it 2 days before. You can't do it 2 days after. And as for the growth of it, with the rains that we've had and how much flooding we've had in the village, it's very hard for them to cut it. Then with, like you said, trying to find people, it's next to impossible to find them because people that are on unemployment, they make more than what we can pay them.
Well, this isn't
This
just
is-
this year.
Yeah,
This
this
is-
is exactly what you're saying is exactly what we've heard 2 years in a row.
Well,
That there's
it's the same every year because.
Yeah, but if you
kids
go to
don't-
the other villages, so we have pride in Homer Glen, that's why we live here, right? We all take pride in it, we all want it to look nice. So we're all, you know, we want the parks to look nice too. So over the weekend, when I took these pictures and went around our parks, I went to Orland, I went to New Lenox, I went to Lockport, all their parks are cut. It's our parks that aren't cut. So I just wanted to report that to the village that yes, there is a lot of rain, but the grass does get cut in other villages.
Landscapers are cutting private, you know.
So,
homes,
yeah, there's a lot of the budget spent on parks, so I was hoping that the grass could be more budget spent on that. Is it, can you stay if there's not enough people to cut in May? Is that why the grass continually?
It has a lot to do with it.
Well, we were also on, you know, with the virus, we were on limited staff. We could only have so many people in the building, so they were rotating in and out, so we were very limited on that.
I can also respond that we did make offers to hire our seasonal maintenance staff. We went through the interviewing process, and this is a recurring problem that we do have. We made offers, we had offers accepted, and the day that they were supposed to start, they were a no-show. So we are still interviewing for our seasonal maintenance workers because of that. So we are still short-staffed for our seasonal as well. So our current full-time staff is doing the best they can within the resources available in the budget, but we're hoping to get those seasonal positions filled and get them on.
Village manager, can you also address that you were looking at changing the schedule so that you can address getting around rain impacts?
Right, so once we get fully staffed for the season, our goal is to work not just a normal Monday through Friday schedule, but to actually have them staggering their work schedules so that they also are out doing work on the weekends as well, which will allow us to account for when we do have rain. This was the rainiest season ever for May in our area, so that has been an impact as well. But I will certainly look into when the last time that Evelyn Skate Park was cut, so I will ask staff that. But I know that they're doing the best they can with the 4 staff members that we have currently.
Thank you. And your second thing?
Yeah, the second issue is in regards to specifically the Evelyn Skate North Park. There's a small pavilion that rests up near our pond. And we've been asking for the past 3 years to have somebody fix the flagstones that are surrounding. They've fallen away, and it's kind of a safety hazard. And when we saw the proposed budget here about potentially concreting a certain area in the same park, I was kind of taken aback, and we've been asking for the past 3 years is for somebody to fix these flagstones, which is a safety hazard. And we keep hearing that, oh, we've got to have an engineering study and this and that, a lot of excuses, and we haven't had anything done about it.
Mr. Mayor, that project is in our budget and it will be done this year.
Okay.
It will? Oh, thank you.
Is there anything else?
Would that not be on these, so I never looked at the budget once, would it be, is it on like this budget that you post? Is that where I would find it?
No, not everything posted that way. We try getting everything done as we can. And there again, it depends on how much of a staff we have.
No, I'm saying the itemized items, the way it's itemized on the website to show like where the money is allocated?
That's for big, what you're looking there, that's bigger.
That's a general.
Yeah, that's a general one.
Yeah, it's purged in with either repair and maintenance of parks or park improvements. I can't recall which line item. I have some supplemental schedules that we use internally to identify budgeted items, but that is definitely a budgeted item for this fiscal year 21.
That's
Well, we
great.
appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yep.
And we'll see what we can do for us to cut the grass.
Yeah, I just,
But like I said, it's been drenched. I
know.
Just to see how
But if you
water
look,
is.
I know.
Is there a plan besides just cutting the grass to maybe fertilize it, get rid of some of the weeds? I mean, it sometimes they're just.
There's like no grass at all.
Yeah. It would be nice to have a halfway decent, grass out there instead of just a bunch of.
Stonebridge is pretty weedy too, so, yeah.
We can look into one of those as we can, and like I said, we don't have parks, we have a group of people that work for us that do the parks, and they try doing the best they possibly can. We bought all the equipment that we need, sometimes even driving through the grass, all you do is you make a ruts. I really, for the last few weeks, what do we have, 8.5 inches of rain for the month of May, and it's not over. In fact, they didn't count this last rain we had last Saturday.
But is it in the budget to actually fertilize the parks at some point during the season or no?
There's certainly maintenance money in there for weeds and other things. I can't tell you exactly what's allocated for each individual park right off the top of my head. But if you want to leave me your email, I can certainly follow up and get you additional information.
Yeah, that'd be great. I mean, we're just interested to know if there is fertilization done at all at the parks. So I emailed you before and I can do that. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. John Smoger? Oh, that's,
I'm with
no.
Mugshoys.
Yeah, it's with Mugshoys. Are you here? You have something you wanted to say? If you can step up to the podium.
I'm Steve Glen, I'm with John, we're partners for the Mugshoys business.
Okay.
So we're kind of here to address any questions or regarding the proposal that we have in front of the board.
Okay, then what we'll do is we'll call you up before once we have it, just so they can ask you the questions.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Andy Zillion? Did I kill that name?
Yeah, not like those two. But I'm just here for a variance, so.
All right, I'll do the same thing with you when we heard before I spoke. Yes, you. Kevin Groves?
I'm just here for a variance as well.
Okay, thank you. That's it for public comment.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
a number of people are on the Zoom call that have indicated that they'd like to speak.
Okay.
Now, to those who are on the phone, if you could just raise your hand on Zoom or chat and say that you would like to speak, the mayor will grant you public comment to speak.
And it is a 3-minute talk if it's possible. We're trying to get through the meeting.
Kathy Curtis, would you like to speak to the village board?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
I just wanted I chose the Zoom meeting because I thought in normal Zoom you could see me and I could see you. I live at 14357 Golden Oak Drive, and Mugshoys would be less than a half a football field from my backyard. When I moved into Homer Glen, I moved here for the green space and to see, to have peace and quiet. I like sitting on my deck like I'm doing now. You don't hear anything. I Thank you.
Thank you. If you just stay on, so at least you can hear a response on it. Carrie, could you please explain what the changes that we've made? So they know what the noise, they know the smoking, they know.
Do you want to do that now, or do you want to do it under the item?
Yeah, let's do it with the item.
Okay. Because we have some PowerPoint presentations and some slides that we can walk everyone through.
Kathy, can you wait until then?
You know what, it's really, really, really hard to hear you. And I know from, chatting on the side with my neighbors, we're all having a very difficult time hearing you. And it may be easier if you turn the camera so we can see as you're speaking. That may be easier, but all I'm seeing is a public comment.
Me too.
You will see slides as we go through the board agenda items, though.
Yeah, not being able to hear you, if I could see a visual, I may be able to understand a little easier. It's very echoey. I've changed to my earbuds, I've changed my sounds, I've tried to do everything. And I do believe if you ask who else is having a hard time hearing you, you'll find out that it's not just me.
We're doing the best we can with the technology that we have, unfortunately.
All right, Kathy, we'll do the best we can to see if we can make it clearer for you. Did you hear that okay?
Yeah, I can hear you better than I can hear her.
Okay. All right, then just bear with us until we get to the item, and then you'll be able to see everything and hear everything. Thank you.
Thank you.
Matt, anyone else?
Yes, there is. Crystal Johnson, would you like to speak?
W.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. I'm actually Kathy's next door neighbor, and I would just like to echo everything Kathy said. I did send a picture over to Melissa King as well, so that you could see my view of what the Mugshoys outdoor seating would look like. I have a young son. We moved to Portland to find some peace in our community, and if our motto is community and nature in harmony, I don't feel like an outdoor seating area to a bar that's open until 3 accomplishes that goal for your citizens. And I hope you take that into account. We all have small children back here. We're raising families, and that's not what we need to see in it. So I appreciate your consideration.
Is there any other thing on it, Crystal, or are you set with what each one of you have said on it? Because we'll be discussing it in a few minutes.
Yeah, we'll stay on.
Okay, thank you. Matt, you want to call the next one, please?
Yes. Cindy S.
Hello?
Yes, would you like to speak?
Yes. So my house is directly behind Mugshoys, where it's looked to be, and I sent a letter to you guys have read it, but for me, it's so close to my backyard and my pool where my 3 children are at. I am very concerned because this is what I've been seeing of them putting in this bar is people standing outside already, just staring
Okay. If you can hold on until we get to that agenda item, then, like I said, we can go through the whole thing and you'll know what the changes have been. So just trying to work with us if you can. Matt?
Yes, I believe there's one more. Melissa Prado, would you like to speak?
I would like to, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, I live on airport. I'm neighbors with everyone that's already spoken. We too would be impacted by the approval of this outdoor space. I would appreciate the business owner's desire for outdoor dining. I'm a chef myself. I've been in the food and beverage industry for over 20 years. But I know full part of being a responsible business owner, also being a neighbor to the community and understanding the decisions that you make for your business, how they impact your neighbors directly. I think introducing this so close to a residential area is very damaging for all of us. We all move here to this area because we appreciate it. You know, not only the village's commitment to community and nature and harmony, but also just being able to enjoy our own privacy. There's just really nothing harmonious about having to listen to rowdy bar patrons, small cigarette smoke, filled with all the crowds that just steps away. We'll be there already, but if we have an outdoor space where they're encouraged to gather, it's going to be even louder and even more difficult for all of us to deal with. This is especially concerning for me. I have 2 small children myself. Their bedroom is directly in line with where this outdoor patio would be. There's so many more kids who live and play in the same vicinity. Equally important, now more than ever, especially during this pandemic, we're all going to be spending a lot more time in our own homes and our outdoor spaces. So I feel like this will impact us even, you know, even a more greater way. And I worked, like I said, I worked for a long time in the food and beverage industry, and this restaurant will need its community support to thrive. And if they are not good neighbors to us, I can guarantee that they won't have our support of this neighborhood. And they're going to need that. They're going to last and survive and be a good business in this neighborhood. So, you know, again, I would just say thank you to all of you for listening to us and hearing our concerns. We appreciate you guys figuring this out and taking into consideration how this would affect our ability to live and enjoy our own yards.
Thank you. Matt, is there any other?
Yes, there is. Tracy, would you like to speak?
Yes, please.
Whoa.
So, obviously, on top of everybody else concerned with everything outside, I have a question on top of that. Is this outdoor seating area?
We can hear you.
There's food droppings. What is that like to our environment as far as food? We had enough issues when the deli moved in here with rodents. I've been here for over 20 years. We've never had mice in our house. We see it more and more. So what is going to happen with all those food droppings on that thing every night? How is that taken care of? Is it going to be swept to the end of, you know, the walkway area and pushed to the grass? Is it going to be pushed to the parking lot? Is that going to be hosed down and stored every evening? I mean, my house backs right up to it as well. And then the other concern I have is what about anything smoking? Where are they going to go? Out that which then 15 feet from, you know, an establishment that could be is right in my yard. I mean, right, the fence is my yard. And again, I have children as well. I have a granddaughter that's here. So, I mean, we have a pool. We're outside all the time. So there's a lot of concern other than this, what will be going on out there.
Is that, do you have anything else on it, Tracy?
That's it for now.
Okay. Matt, are there any others?
Yes. Susan Manning, would you like to speak?
She's still here.
Okay, well,
Go ahead, Susan.
Hi, Mayor. Hi, Board Trustees. Thank you for allowing us this time. I have a couple of questions. How many people in the subdivision were notified about the Mugshoys having the outdoor seating? And also, what is the noise ordinance and how would that be enforced?
Everyone within 250 feet of the subject property was notified, which is what they're legally required to do.
Okay. How far are you from the, where Mugshots is gonna go? Do you have any idea? Susan?
Oh, I can't hear you, Mayor. Sorry.
How far are you from the fence line or from the back of the Mugshots building?
I live 4 doors away, my neighbor lives 3 doors away. There's Cedar Creek Court, not that, heard about it, Nick Chandler, or Dr. see it. Please provide a little bit more notification so that we can be involved too.
All right, I would ask you to do the same thing as we've asked the rest of them, is let's get to that item on the agenda. We'll talk about it. You'll hear a lot more of when the hours are and how it's going to work and the partitions, the idea of the smoking. We'll be discussing all that when this comes forward, which shouldn't be too long.
Okay, thank you. I have one real quick comment.
Okay. Go ahead, Susan.
I thankfully watch the village meetings, and the acoustics are so poor that I have to use the hearing impaired. I think that it would behoove everyone to get that sound quality enhanced so that all the people in the village can tune in and listen. Otherwise, we can't hear, we don't know what's going on. Thank you very much.
You're quite welcome. And we are trying on that too. Unfortunately, for the last few months, it's been extremely hectic. This is the first time we've ever done anything with Zoom. And I do understand, because sometimes we can't understand the people that are calling into us either. But we'll work it out. So just sit back and relax for a few minutes. Let's get the rest of the meeting going. So we're going to switch over. Are there any others?
No, that is it.
Okay. All right. For right now, we're done with the public comments. We're going to the consent agenda. All matters listed under the consent agenda are considered routine by the village board and will be enacted by one motion. Is there a motion to approve the following items? 1, accounts payable for the period of May 15th, 2020 through May 28th, 2020 in the amount of $558,911.07. 2, the treasurer's report of cash and investments in the period ending April 30th, 2020. 3, pay estimate number 10 from Boston Tyler Construction, Inc. for Phase 1 of Heritage Park Project in the amount of $20,000. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Trustee Gray?
A second.
Trustee Rogers? Was there any other discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Rogers? Aye. Trustee Suisse? Aye. Trustee Cabrio?
Aye.
Trustee Pazino?
Aye.
Trustee Gray?
Aye.
Trustee Bachel?
Aye. Motion carries. Next would be legislation and action items. We have a couple of proclamations tonight. One of them is for a lady that has worked for us for a long time, and I love her very much, and I'm very sorry she's leaving, but I also wish her the absolute best. So, Elaine, are you here? Come on up.
She's in the desk.
Well, this is one woman I'm going to hate to see leave. You've done so much for this village.
it's been such a long time, it's gone by so quick.
What are you?
So, we have the proclamation declares Friday, June 5th, 2020. Whoops, it's National Gun. So I told you we had a few. Okay. Proclamation congratulating Alina Bowles for 19 years of service at the Village of Homer Glen. Whereas Alina Bowles assisted in the efforts to incorporate the Village of Homer Glen and served as a volunteer staff member in the early and formative years of the village. And in 2005, Alina Bowles joined the village as a full-time staff member, and we played a significant role in the aspects of the village's organization, growth, and development. And for those of you who have known Alina Bowles, she is always there willing to pitch in as a person behind the scenes to make sure everything was in working order. And always with a smile. She got one right now. And Alina Bowles was a staff member of all trades and has worked in everything from accounts payable to human resources, special events, deputy clerk, office manager, and most recently, the village historical records. And Alina Bowles received the key to the village on December 10th, 2014, on her first attempt to retire. However, she was asked to stay on as a part-time staff member to assist with a variety of important projects. And the village has greatly benefited from the continued service and dedication of Alina Bowles. So therefore, I, George Ukich, Mayor of the Village of Homer Glen, on behalf of the Village Board and the citizens of the Village of Homer Glen, do hereby recognize Alina Bowles on her retirement after 19 years of dedicated service to the Village of Homer Glen. And I call upon the people in the village to congratulate and extend our best wishes to Alina Bowles and her family, dated this 27th day of May, 2020.
I'll check in every now and then. And you have fun with the grandkids. I will. And I just want to thank everybody, and I enjoyed my stint with the village. I spent a lot of time learning a lot of different people. You see, you're my third mayor. We've moved 4 times. Karen's not counting the village manager. It's been a good ride. I'll miss everybody. It's nice to get to know all the new staff members. Good luck to everybody. It's a great place to live and work. Thank you.
Thanks, Elaine. Is there a motion to approve the attached proclamation congratulating Alina Bowles on her retirement? So which we've already done that. All right, second. Can you take the roll call on it?
I did not. I need a motion. I need a first and I need a second, then roll call.
So moved. Trustee Caprio?
Second.
Who was first there?
I'll second.
All right, Trustee Sweet, sorry. Was there any other discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Sweet? Aye. Trustee Caprio?
Aye.
Trustee Pazmino?
Aye.
Trustee Gray?
Aye.
Trustee Backwell?
Aye.
And Trustee Rogers? Aye. And George?
And it's definitely an aye. Okay, second.
This is for the proclamation declaring June 5th, 2020 as National Gun Violence Awareness Day in the Village of Homer Glen. Is there a motion to approve the attached proclamation declaring June 5th, 2020 as National Gun Violence Awareness Day in the Village of Homer Glen?
So moved.
Trustee Gray,
A second.
Trustee Rogers. Okay, let me read this part.
There's discussion?
Hmm?
What was that?
Is there, well, it says read the proclamation, but.
Excuse me, Mayor? Mayor, is it okay if I read something before you go over the proclamation, or did you want me to wait till after?
No, if you've got something to say, probably go ahead and say it.
Okay. First of all, I want to thank the individual for her commitment to bettering our community. Although I do understand the cause, it is important to understand how the term gun violence awareness can be easily misconstrued as gun control, which in turn can head right into a slippery slope, taking away little by little our Second Amendment right to bear arms. I think the key word here is violence. Violence can come in many forms, not just firearms, domestic violence, cyberbullying, etc., which claims the life of many Americans every year and also can be considered a form of violence. My recommendation, I feel better on voting for this if we called it or renamed it, or I'm not sure if it's a motion to amend or however, National Violence Awareness Day. Because no one should initiate any type of violence, period. That's all I have to say, Mayor.
Thank you. All right, this proclamation declares June 5th, 2020 to be the National Gun Violence Awareness Day in the Village of Homer Glen, to honor and remember all victims and survivors of gun violence, and to declare that this country must do more to reduce gun violence. Every day, 100 Americans are killed by gun violence. On the average, there are nearly 13,000 gun homicides every year. And Americans are 25 times more likely to be killed with guns than people in other high countries. And protecting public safety in the communities they serve as mayors, highest responsibility, and whereas the support of the Second Amendment, right of laws-abiding citizens, goes hand in hand with keeping guns away from people with dangerous histories, and mayors and law enforcement officers know their communities best. They are the most familiar with the local criminal activity and how to address it, and are best positioned to understand how to keep their citizens safe. And in January 2013, Adia Pendleton, a teenager who marched in President Obama's second inaugural parade, was tragically shot and killed weeks later. Should now be celebrating her 22nd birthday. And to help honor Hadia and the 100 Americans who lived and their lives were cut short, and the countless survivors who are injured by shootings every day, a national coalition of organizations has designed June 5th, 2020, the first Friday in June, and the 5th National Gun Violence Awareness Day. And the idea was inspired by a group of Adia's friends who asked their classmates to commemorate her life by wearing orange. They chose this color because hunters wear orange to announce themselves to other hunters. And when out in the woods, the orange is a color that symbolizes the value of human life. And anyone can join this campaign by pledging a Wear Orange on June 5th, the first Friday in June of 2020, to help raise awareness about gun violence. And by wearing orange on June 5th, 2020, Americans will raise awareness about gun violence and honor the lives of gun violence victims and survivors. And we renew our commitment to reduce gun violence and pledge to do all we can to keep firearms out of the wrong hands and encourage responsible gun ownership to help keep our children safe. Therefore, let it be resolved that Mayor George Yukich of the Village of Homer Glen declares Friday, in June 5th, 2020, to be the National Gun Violence Awareness Day. I encourage all citizens to support their local communities' efforts to prevent the tragic effects of gun violence and to honor, value human lives. Approved this 27th day of May 2020. This one here is with regards to stop it. Okay.
I do remember last year when we went through this, there was some discussion relative to what Ruben's concerns were, and you know, it's important to understand. I only speak for myself as a FOIA member myself. It is about protecting our rights to own guns, but to be responsible and to be role models and to make sure that we're educated and we're keeping those protected. I think that's what this was all about. It's in no way against guns, and I think that's important to say. It's all about just being aware of being a safe and responsible gun owner.
I agree. It's not the guns, it's people. Is there a motion to amend the name of this? To what now?
Thank you, Mayor. To amend the proclamation to change the wording to National Violence Awareness Day.
Trustee Gray made the motion and Trustee Rogers second.
Any discussion on it?
On changing the motion or the proclamation?
The proclamation.
Well, the proclamation is tied into an organization and a movement, so I don't really feel that it's our place to change the proclamation when they brought it forward to us as part of the name of their movement. So while I understand Trustee Pazmino's point on this, and to Trustee Rogers, you know, I'm a gun rights advocate myself. You know, I shoot, I own, I do it all. This is not an infringement on our second right amendment, which I think we've all acknowledged. And I would encourage Trustee Pazmino as well as the rest of us to maybe look at next year having a secondary proclamation, because I'm sure that Kelly, her movement will be back, and you know, we can have two certainly. But I don't feel that it's our place to change this one right now, because she petitioned us under this banner. So
I'll concur. Try to change something that's already been out there for a couple of years, and we should allow whoever it is that's guiding this motion or this proclamation to change it. So the only thing we can do is see if they'll do it for us next year. Any other comments? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Caprio?
Aye.
Trustee Pazmino?
No.
Trustee Gray?
Aye.
Trustee Backel?
Aye.
Trustee Rogers?
Aye.
Trustee Suisse?
Aye.
Motion carries. Is there a motion to accept Mayor Yurkich's appointment of Trustee Keith Gray as Mayor Pro Tem?
I so move.
So second, Suisse. And who was the second? Discussion? Okay. Keith? You got it? Yes, I know. Oh, he's got it. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Pazmino?
Yes.
Trustee Gray?
Aye.
Trustee Backel?
Aye.
Trustee Rogers?
Aye.
Trustee Suisse? Aye. Trustee Caprio?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Mayor and Board. I appreciate that.
Is there a motion to approve the mayor's appointments to the village committees as outlined in the agenda supplement sheet? All appointments are for the period of 1 year. Is there a motion?
I so move.
Trustee Caprio,
I'll second.
Trustee Suisse. Discussion.
I'm sorry, I was talking to Christina for a second. Is this in regards to, I want to make sure I'm looking at the right one here.
It's I4, the mayor's appointments of the village's committees.
Okay, I'm sorry. I've got nothing to say about that. I'm sorry. I was looking at something different.
All right. The list is the Mayor's Parks and Recreation Committee appointments of co-chairperson Trustee Ruben Pazmino and Trustee Beth Rogers. Committee members Dale Jansen, Ed Cryer, Bob Kamen, Russell Knack, Regina Robinson, Dan Kenny, and Marty Palin. The Mayor's Public Service and Safety Committee appointments of co-chairpersons Trustee Carlo Caprio and Trustee Brock Backel, and committee members Chris Lucasius, a Homer Township Road District Representative, a Homer Township Fire Protection District Representative, a Northwest Homer Fire Protection District Representative, a Will County Sheriff's Officer Representative, a Development Services Department Representative, and an EMA Representative. The Mayor's Emergency Management Agency appointments of Coordinator John Robinson and members Ron Schell, Amal Centers, David Kavirkas, Bill Langenwood, Jim Riley, Steve Spear, Adrian Byrne, Jim Kinstead, Regina Robinson, and Sam Scapellata. Appointments for a period of 1 year for admin and finance. Appointments of Mayor Yukich ex officio, Trustees KeithGray, Beth Rogers, and Sharon Swees. The Mayor's Community and Economic Development Committee, appointments of Mayor Yukich ex officio, Trustee KeithGray, committee members Dan Fleming, Mark Garwin, Dan Kenny, Chris Pluzik, Eileen Kremen, and Mike Codell. The Mayor's Environmental Committee, appointment of co-chairpersons Trustee Sharon Swees and Ruben Pazmino, and committee members Margaret Sabo, Cynthia Rata, Bob Moses, Gary White, Joe Therese, Nancy Carlson, and Andy Pinelli. The Mayor's Homer Community Festival, appointments of chairperson Trustee Carlo Caprio and committee members Chris Lucasius, Todd Finfera, Tony Dravick, Mike DeVivo, Ed Callis, Debbie Stevens, Sarah Rednick, and Sue Stiles. Is that it, Matt?
Yes.
Okay. So, we've got the motion. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Backel?
Yes.
Trustee Rogers?
Aye.
Trustee Swees? Aye. Trustee Caprio?
Aye.
Trustee Pazmino?
Aye.
Trustee Gray?
Aye.
Next, with the appointment of Brock Backel to the village trustee, the chairperson for the Plan Commission is vacant. Brian Kozar currently serves as a vice chair and would advance to chair. And Beth Verdum currently serves on the Planning Commission and would advance to the vice chair position. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Trustee Rogers,
I'll second.
Trustee Backel. Discussion?
I would like to say something, Mayor. After 5 years on the Planning Commission and a year as the chairman, I've worked with the current group for now quite a few years, and they're all quality, dependable people, and I received much guidance from all of them, and I appreciated all the hard work that they all put in, and I think Brian Kozar and Beth Verdon are both quality people, and I agree with those choices.
Thank you. And I agree. Planning Commission has been wonderful, but we're happy we got you here, and we're happy we got the people running it now. So I got the, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Rogers? Aye. Trustee Swees? Aye. Trustee Caprio?
Aye.
Trustee Pazmino?
Aye.
Trustee Gray?
Aye.
Trustee Backel?
Aye.
Okay, next, is there a motion to approve ordinance number 20-014, an ordinance approving a special use permit for outdoor seating associated with permitted restaurant with an exception to reduce the required unobstructed adjacent sidewalk from 5 feet to 0, as required in section 220.835 in the Village of Homer Glen zoning ordinance, for Mugshoys Bar and Grill located at 13031 West 143rd Street, Homer Glen, Illinois, in the C1 neighborhood commercial zoning district. Mugshoys outdoor seating, case number HG 2003-S, subject to the following conditions: an 8-foot by 8-foot clear sound barrier be constructed at the southern end of the outdoor seating area, and closing hours of operation for only the outdoor seating will be restricted to 10 p.m. on weekdays, from Sunday through Thursday and 12 a.m. on Fridays and Saturdays. I need a motion.
I so move.
Trustee Cabrio,
Second.
Trustee Gray. Discussion. Well, I took a ride by there, and the owners of Mugshoys is right here, so if there's any questions, we can ask them too. I went by there a couple weeks ago and took a look, and it honestly scared me too, because I thought you were going to go full length of the building. And it is. It's very close to all the houses back there. And you only have between the fence and then the back of the building for a distance for them. But now you've brought it up to where the cars should not even be seen unless you want to jump over the fence and take a look. But you do understand that the neighbors are there. They've been there for a long time. And we just got to make sure that everything that's being done there is to their benefit too. So right now I'm just going to let the board have at it and ask you any questions and make sure we're all on the same page before we vote this in.
I don't necessarily have any questions, and I appreciate the work that staff did in going out there and showing us the current conditions and also the neighborhood's current conditions of the shopping centers, and that weighs nothing, that I don't hold any of that against you. You know, I believe it's something that I appreciate the neighbors bringing that to our attention. That's something that needs to be addressed immediately. It's embarrassment, the current conditions, not yours, in general, how it is. During our workshop meeting, those that were here recall, we had a discussion on an existing, and there was full consent of the board at the time, on existing, if we were putting outside use and it infringed or it was, the residents were upset about it, that it wasn't something that we were going to do. If it was new and it was, you moved there, then that was on you. These are people that have been there for a long time, and it's just something that I could not support.
I have a comment, Mayor. I agree with Trustee Rogers, because I think we're not looking at the full scope of this. I hear what the residents say, and I really take that into account. I don't think putting up an 8-foot piece of plastic and calling it a sound barrier is going to really do anything. It really isn't. When you have car doors and noise and everything, midnight on a weekend night, to some people that's early. Others, it's like, oh my God, all the noise. And noise does travel far in the evenings. I live miles away, and I can hear when the loudspeakers are at the sports complex. I don't think the way it's set up right now, I don't think this should go forward with this outdoor seating.
Especially when you look at the back of their houses, this is where they sit and enjoy. And I think one person brought up a really good point. A lot of us this is where we're going to be all summer long, is home, in our backyards, in our swimming pools, outside, with the windows open, hopefully, getting fresh air. And I just think it would be hypocritical for us to have, 60 days ago say we wouldn't do something like this, to then go, okay, well, we could do it. Then when you're looking at the hours, who's gonna enforce this kind of stuff at 11 o'clock at night? We're gonna have the neighbors calling the police to go out there to say, oh, it's too noisy, I gotta shut my windows. I think the one woman brought up a really good point also. I mean, her kids' bedroom windows are out there, and it's just too close.
I'd like to make a comment if I could.
Go ahead.
I was just going to break a brief one, but I can go ahead.
I went out there also, and I actually was just there yesterday, and I met with one of the owners, and we walked over it. And one of the questions I had for him at the beginning when I got there was, why to the side? Why not out front? Like most places are. Pelican Aries has it out front. Tavern and Glen has it on the side, but that's really kind of more conducive to they have the driveway aisle there. So when I asked the gentleman that, he said his initial plans had the outdoor dining in the front like a normal restaurant would have. they came to find that they have a ramp there that they were not able to block. So they were encouraged then to look at the side of the building. And I'd like to know from staff, maybe from Manager Briley, maybe, I don't think Planner Melissa's here today. But what is there any other way that we can work with these guys to get it back out front? Is there anything that can be done with that ramp that they couldn't impede? Because what I was told was that if they blocked the sidewalk, if we granted the variance to block the sidewalk, that the ramp that's on the west side would be, nobody would be able to get over to the east side businesses. But when we're standing out there, if I'm standing in front of the deli that one of the residents referenced earlier, which is kind of in the midsection of the north-facing part of that L-shaped development, if I was parked in front of the deli and I was in a wheelchair or a rascal, a scootabout, I'd still be able to drive right up onto the sidewalk because the sidewalk and the drive aisle are the same level right there. So really, it's almost like it's one entire ramp. And again, I don't know if that was just bad planning on the way that they paved that parking lot or not, but essentially that entire thing is a ramp.
I'm going to have to defer to our building official, Joe, if you could answer that.
I believe you, Trustee Gray, you are correct, but I think with some modification, the potential for that location in the front would be doable because of the pavement, the entrance of the asphalt basically, and the concrete underneath the overhang of the building would be considered ADA compliant.
And if the outdoor seating moved back to the front, that would be the absolute furthest it could be from those residents. And just to be clear also, I know that there's been a lot of bullet points sent to us and everything by the residents, by the concerned people in the neighborhood. We cannot stop the development of this restaurant. They are entitled to put a restaurant in that space. It's really just coming down to the variances that they're coming before us for, which is 2, I believe, it's for to block, to take back the aisle that we're going to not have open anymore and the outdoor seating. So the restaurant is going to be there, and we have already allowed outdoor seating in that development with Enzo's. So I would encourage that maybe, again, when I was there yesterday, the gentlemen here are waiting for a roof to be installed before they're going to continue on with their build out, and it does not seem to me the time is of the absolute essence here, and I would encourage them to maybe look at putting it back out front.
Can we possibly table this and see, to see what they could come back up with just the front, if they're willing to do that? I don't know what you want to do, but I'm not happy with the sides.
Yeah, I was also out there today. Are you amenable to looking at putting in flags? Because my 2 concerns are for the residents, of course, but we don't want to impede on your business opportunity either. Parking on the side of that building would be sort of intrusive to the residents, as well as having the outdoor seating on that side of the building. I mean, I was there for about 25, 30 minutes today. If it would fit in the front, at least that would give some remedy, I think, to the situation. But really, it's about you as business owners and your staff controlling as much as you can. The patrons.
And just to be clear, it would be in the front and maybe wrap around a bay or a bay and a half. For a conversation. But again, it would be no more than like the bump out on front of Blueberry Hill or something of that nature. So, we're all relatively familiar with that. Again, I think that given the fact that you're waiting for some landlord improvements on your site before you can even continue on with your build out, I think there's enough time here to explore other options and maybe get back to your initial request, and maybe everybody can be, somewhat satisfied in this, because we definitely want to encourage the new business to come into the village, and we want to work with you as much as we can. I'm sensitive to the residents' needs as well. I'm just trying to make sure that we're not setting a false standard here for the residents to say that there is a commercial development here, and I'm not really sure which one came first, but obviously you can see one right next to the other. And unfortunately, these are as the mayor mentioned earlier, we're not a very old village. We inherited a lot of these bad designs. We would not look at a design like this today. We would look at something that is butting up against residential and commercial and say, no, we need some buffers in here. So unfortunately, we're doing the best that we can to try to work with you, work with the residents, and make sure that everybody's kind of in a comfortable position. But I would like to also encourage staff that, we need to, to these residents' points about the potholes, if there are rodent problems back there or garbage collection issues, we need to kick up our game too and make sure that if there are enforcement issues, we're out there, we're enforcing those. And, I don't know how many times we have fined the landlord or not, but really, to me, and I've never landlorded, so I don't know, but it seems to me that a good landlord is going to be the one who's out there making sure that he's taking the hits here and not pitting the residents against the commercial, his tenants, her tenants, whoever, it should be up to that person to make sure that you're not feeling pressured. So, I think we need to bring a little bit of our municipal muscle to bear on that landlord to really, improve that property. And maybe, he can address some of those buffering issues. There is a strip of dirt, grass, whatever, between the delivery drive aisle back there that runs west to east, and maybe he can plant some screening, some taller varieties. I know that it wouldn't be immediate, but those things do grow over time. So maybe we can bring the landlord up to snuff on some of these things. So.
Can I want to ask you a question, I don't know. The picture I'm looking at on that square where they have that big bush, well, you can't, it's in our packet. Yeah, is that a big enough spot, like if they transplanted, if they could get okay to get rid of that or transplant that bush and use that? Is that going to be a safety if they put a fencing around that for added space? Because I'd rather have everything up front, nothing on the sides.
I would say at this point, because it's so, that it's already gone to public hearing, that I would say that we need to vote on it and they're gonna have to go through the process again so that the residents are fully, the residents are notified of it again when it does go to public, when it does go to planning. Because I can't sit here and say I would support it if it goes in front. I'm not saying I wouldn't support it. I would say I'm gonna listen to what the residents say because that's what I said 60 days ago. If the residents had a problem with it, I have a problem with it because they were here first. And it's different. I mean, the outdoor seating that's there now is totally different from, a saloon. I mean, that's the name, right? It's a bar. It's more a bar than a restaurant. And my fear is that Mugshoys Bar and Grill is going to lean more towards bar at midnight, like most of the other ones are too. So I just feel like at this point, like they said, they have so much time. I mean, you guys are months away from opening, right? Keith?
4 weeks, 4 or 5 weeks away.
You're 4 or 5 weeks away from opening? Keith, you're 4 or 5 weeks away from opening.
Once the road is done, they'll build off the start.
They got a permit pulled for that yet?
Yes.
Oh, I don't know if they do for the.
Well, for road, I don't know.
Right.
Yeah, but our permit is pulled.
The board, if wanted to, you could remand it back to the planning commission, and then they could conduct another public hearing when we got revised drawings for the front.
I think that's important to do just based on the.
Right, I'm okay with remanding it as opposed to just stopping and having that start.
Yeah. We'd have to set up a time slot for planning commission.
Well, they should have one next week, first Thursday.
So I mean, like you had said, there's enough time to get this thing done.
Does staff feel there's enough time to investigate those items and see if we can bring back some amendment plan?
Yeah, we've already reached out. Casey's already reached out to on the property maintenance issues, and that connect's been done, and actually Casey responded back to the resident as well. I sent that email to all the trustees today, but then we need some time to sit down with the owners and figure out placement along the front. But we can do that, and then we can figure out what is the best planning commission for this to go back to.
I think it's important that I reiterate the fact that nothing on the outside is, I'm not holding any of that against you. My whole pushback on this is the residents and the comments that I had 60 days ago where, when we were at a workshop and we discussed outside seating and I believe I said, I love outdoor seating. I will go and sit outside before I'll go inside. And we're encouraging businesses to come here, but my recollection of the meeting was that if it was going up against an existing and the residents had a problem with it, then
it wasn't something that I could support. And that's why I wanted to go back to planning, especially now with the order being lifted, the people that's why I'm here today. I haven't been to a meeting, I've been doing Zoom, and we struggled with Zoom. And I want that these residents that are here on Zoom, if they're not happy with it, still with it going in the front, which they may be fine with it now because their kids aren't going to be sitting there looking at you all out there, that they have an opportunity to go to planning because they didn't have the opportunity to go to planning. I don't think anybody was at planning. There was one email that was there. You know, the residents need to be heard if they want to be heard if there's an issue that's important to me. But I just want to make sure I'm very clear. I'm happy to see another business come to Homer Glen, and I don't hold any of the landlord issues against you whatsoever.
We do have some comments.
Go ahead.
Please bring up. Just quickly through some of the things that they mentioned, as we talked about some of this when Keith was there. We did talk about our back door entrance. They're worried about people coming in the parking lot. We've already designated that as an employee entrance. So on that back side door, the employee or maybe a party room only.
Ruben, can you maybe let them borrow your mic?
Yeah.
Can you hear me better? Yes. So we were talking about the back door that's kind of back on the side closest to the neighborhood. We've already designated that as an employee entrance. We also have a small party room back there. Generally, those are not made at night. We would only use it for that. We've already designated it that. As far as the patio goes, of course, we would clean it daily. We're both kind of clean freaks. I mean, nothing in that place is going to be dirty. I know you won't know that until we're actually in business and actually see some of that. We did talk about the sound barrier, whether it's plexiglass or some other barrier. Also something down at the end we proposed, and we kind of moved away from that with the talks with the planning committee. We just recently started talking about if there was some designation for some of the spots by us, not during normal weekday when those other businesses are there. We could have those as employee only. Then you wouldn't have people from our establishment actually wandering around that part. They'd be out front instead. Now what they do out in the parking lot, we don't have much control over. But of course we'd be cleaning up any cigarettes and food and anything else that's out there. We can take care of all that. Of course we have full pest control service, part of the health department approval. We have that as well. And the patio area that we have, it is relatively small. It's about 22 seats, all sitting down. Generally, it's not a stand-up. Everyone has a drink standing out there. That was our thought when we had it. Just have some place to sit out there. You get the sun setting in the west. But like I said, our original proposal was to have that wrap around the front. The front was the main part of our dining area. We were told we need to plan, try to move it around to avoid the handicap access.
Yeah, the only thing that I have to say is, as far as the residents go, we're here to work hand in hand with the residents if they have any concerns. Both Steve and I are long residents of Over Glen. When the village approached us to find property for our business, we were excited because of us being Over Glen residents, and we'll support any ordinance that is in the village. And also, if the neighbors have any concerns at all, the door is always open. They can come and speak with us, and we'll address whatever the issues are within reason.
The village actually gave us this location. They're the ones that pointed us to this landlord and this location. And when we saw it, we thought it was ideal. Of course, we thought about the neighbors as well. Kind of concerning the amount of talk back as far as the concerns. So I understand if it was a bar coming behind the house, I'd be concerned as well. They don't know us. They don't know the business that we're starting. The concern is now we're going to come back with a replan going back to where we were before. I don't know that they're going to say anything different because they may have the power just to shoot it down. I don't know if that, I mean, if we go around to the front, it removes most of the things that they're complaining about, but I don't know if they're eliminating it.
And unfortunately, having outdoor seating is a big revenue stream for us because we got competition on both sides of Bell Avenue or Bell Grove, and we might not be able to compete with them. And without having outdoor seating, just like the young lady said over here,
Yes, I do. My concerns are the same that I stated at the Planning Commission meeting on May 7th. It's a unique situation compared to the other outdoor seating areas that we've approved for a bar and restaurant, primarily because it's directly adjacent to the residence. I think that moving this to the front rather than the side, I think that could accomplish both issues with the residents and the restaurant. So that would make it perhaps a smoother transition for everyone.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else? What you'd have to do then is you're going to have to bring it back before the Planning Commission. You're going to have the drawings set up. In the meantime, the staff will check to see if we can fit it in there to where you still have parking. What else?
The motion on the table is still stands. Carlo would have to, or sorry, Trustee KeithGray would have to amend his motion, and so would Trustee Gray.
Yes.
Do we need to amend it or withdraw?
I'm going to withdraw it if you're going to be remanding it back to Planning Commission.
And who withdraws first, second or first?
First.
So I'll withdraw the motion.
And I withdraw my second.
All right, and then we can see if we can get it set up with the Planning Commission for the first meeting in June.
Well, we need to vote. We need the vote to remand it back to the Planning Commission now?
Yes, so I can make the motion to remand it back to the Planning Commission.
Okay, then we need a second.
So we'd be voting in the affirmative to remand it?
To remand it back, correct.
Right.
That way we can pull it back.
Right.
All right, so Carlo went first. You doing the second?
I'll do the second.
Okay. Any other discussion on it?
I would just say, if staff could maybe have a point person. I think there's probably 8 people tonight that spoke. Maybe, are they still on, Matt? Maybe there's one person who's as a point person and they can keep the rest of them informed as to the dates and the times of the next meetings.
And if not, then they can discuss it tonight and see if they can get a hold of somebody here tomorrow. So this way, at least we know who to talk to over there. They know who to talk to. And the residents know who to talk to.
And it's also always on the village's website, but it's nice to have one, you know, I don't think there's an active HOA up back there, so it is nice to have one person who kind of, we've always found that there's one person in the neighborhood who can kind of take the charge and keep everybody else informed.
Is anyone online still or?
Yes, there's a number of people that have been submitting comments. If anyone, if they just want to reach out to Melissa King, that's mking@homerglenil.org. She's the point person for this, and she can address some of your questions. I know some of you have spoken with her over the past couple of days and weeks, but she'll be the point person on this.
Okay. So.
A vote?
Yeah, a vote right now on bringing it back. So, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Trustee Backel?
Yes.
Trustee Rogers? Aye. Trustee Suisse?
Aye.
Trustee Caprio?
Aye.
Trustee Piazzino?
Aye.
Trustee Gray?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Next, is there a motion to approve ordinance number 20-015, an ordinance approving a special use permit for an existing single-family home, approximately 4,100 square feet, on a lot less than 5 acres of land area, but at least 1 acre in size when topographic or other geographic considerations make the active farm use of the property impractical. To permit an addition with the attached garage to the existing single-family home, approximately 7,900 square feet, and 2, an exception to decrease minimum side yard setback on the west side of the property along the proposed addition from 50 to 14 for certain real property located in the A1 Agricultural District of 17045 South Parker Road, Homer Glen, Illinois, subject to the following conditions. Case number HG2001S.
Do we need to read?
Do we need a motion?
Conditions or not?
Well, don't we have to?
maybe because they're not listening, then I think that's open for discussion, and you can add it.
They are listed on page 2.
Okay. That would be conditioned. Install a landscape buffer on the west side of the addition garage that provides at a minimum the quantities listed below. 5 canopy trees installed, size minimum 3-inch caliper. 5 ornamental trees installed, height minimum 6 foot. 3 large evergreens, pine, spruce, or equivalent, installed, height minimum 8 foot. 3 arboretum or similar, installed, height minimum 6 foot. 7 large shrubs, installed, height minimum 36. 12 to 15 small shrubs, ornamental grasses, perennials, installed, height minimum 24 inches.
I so move.
Trustee
I second.
Gabriel, Trustee Rogers. Discussion?
Just a correction, I think you said 5 ornamental trees, I don't want to get technical, but it's 6. Sorry.
Are you misremembered too?
No, I just don't know.
No, my name is Kevin Rose. I'm the contractor on the project.
So I drove onto this piece of property yesterday, and I must say, it's pretty remote. If everybody's familiar with the very hard S-curve on Parker at about the 170th, it's right on the westernmost corner, and you can't see any of this from the road. I get the want for the condition of the landscapes, because I believe that it'll just add to the buffer to your neighbor to your immediate west, if I remember correctly. Yeah.
We're all for the landscape and the trees and everything, but we're literally planting trees in front of trees. Everything to the west of that property is solid woods. Everything to the south, east is solid woods. The only way you can see that house from Parker Road at any angle is from a helicopter. I mean, it's 5 acres set back. It's on one of the bowling alley lots on Parker Road. And again, driving up and down Parker, I think there's maybe a dozen houses that you can see from the street, that being one of the ones that is so far set back and remote, you can't see it.
When I was standing on your driveway, looking at the house and envisioning where the addition would be on the west side of the lot, and I was not part of the planning commission to see this, but I could see the house to the west, and I'm envisioning that somebody was thinking of these evergreens and things to keep a year-round screen or canopy going there. So that's why I was asking for the conditions to be read in, just so they are perfect. Other than that, you are right. You couldn't tell there's a house there. You couldn't tell there's anything there. So I do like your renders, though. Your addition looks like it's going to be very nice.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Well,
Go ahead, Sharon.
Well, I just have a couple comments and a couple things. I would hardly call this a garage when it's almost 8,000 square foot. This almost looks more like a commercial looking building. And it is in a heavily wooded area, which you are going to clear cut a lot of trees. So I think the landscape is at the minimum. You know, you're putting in stick figures and cutting down a wood portion of a forest to put that in, because it is going to be in a heavily wooded area where they're going to clear cut this, right? According to the map.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, there is going to be some clearing involved. You know, the brunt of it, there's a gate that runs through their fence, that runs down the west end of the property, and there's some thin pines that run along that area that we would need to clear out to make room for that, correct? But again, it's the continuation of the wooded area beyond that is very heavy.
I have a question for staff. On page 2, it says, staff, under where it says members of the Plan Commission, and that sentence goes, staff indicated that the project would be required to achieve preliminary engineering approval prior to moving to the board. And then back in the end, where it shows dated, ordinance dated May 27th, it says preliminary engineering has not been approved by the Development Services Department. Where are we standing with this? It's on page 7 of 7, under the last line on page number 7, on page 7 of 7.
Yeah, it has been approved, so we'll,
It has, or I couldn't hear it.
yeah, the preliminary engineering has been approved.
Has been.
Yeah.
It's highlighted on page 4.
VJ, can I ask, obviously, this was one of the meetings that I chaired, and I'm just trying to remember, what was the reason for the engineering? I know there was a hardship due to, was it a septic field or something, or was it a wetland behind it?
There's a wetland behind it.
Right,
so
yeah,
that's why.
that's the reason why it was built where it was, right, okay.
Oh, okay, because it showed different things in different spots, okay.
I think also, given that the rest of this big piece of land is going to remain wooded and untouched, I think it goes a long way toward what they're trying to do. I think it looks like they're trying to continue to be sensitive to the piece of property that they're on, and work within its restrictions. So.
And this is not for, just one other question, this is not for commercial use, this is for its own private use, I should say.
100%. The owner of the property is a very nice car collection and a couple fishing boats. So he wants enough room to park his fishing boats inside as well as the car collection. That's pretty much all it's for, is carless and a car collection. So, yeah, no commercial use, no business being run out of it.
If I remember correctly, we asked about doing work on the automobiles, and I believe that he purchases primarily already restored vehicles, correct?
Correct. Yeah, he's a Porsche guy. He's got some really cool Porsches, and he doesn't work on them himself. It's all done, out of state by some fancy Porsche builder. So, it's all already finished. It's just a place to park them and drive them around town whenever he's ready.
Any other questions? Okay. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Trustee Suisse? Present. Trustee Cabrio?
Aye.
Trustee Pezmino?
Aye.
Trustee Gray?
Aye.
Trustee Beckel?
Aye.
Trustee Rogers? Aye.
Motion carries. You've got everything approved for now.
And then we have one more. The next one is we have a.
Is there a motion to approve ordinance number 20-17, an ordinance granting a variance to permit fiber cement siding in the first floor of the dwelling in lieu of exterior construction standards requiring that stone or brick material?
I think is that correct? Isn't this for the Brazilian wood?
016.
Yeah.
Item I-8, correct? Yeah.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve ordinance number 20-016, ordinance granting a variance to permit Brazilian walnut hardwood siding on the first floor of the dwelling in lieu of the exterior construction standards requiring that stone or brick material cover 100% of the aggregate total of the area of all first floor or story exterior walls, exclusive of doors, windows, and associated trim, 75-67A, applicability and scope type or building or structure of Chapter 75 buildings of the Code of the Village of Homer Glen for certain real property located in A1 agricultural zoning of 17045 South Parker Road, Homer Glen, Illinois.
I so move.
Okay.
Second.
Discussion.
I have a question, Mayor. On the background information, it says that, well, you know, cement boards in wood is not my, I don't like those variances, but it says here around the bottom 4 feet of the perimeter will be fieldstone or limestone. But then on the letter from Donovan Construction, was that just a typo when you said it's only like 4.5 inch wall of fieldstone and limestone?
I believe it's supposed to be 4.5 feet.
Yeah,
Feet. Okay, well, I just want to make sure
Yeah,
it's 4.5 feet.
That wasn't a typo.
All right.
And then I have a sample of the Brazilian style siding as well.
Is that engineered or is that?
It's an engineered project, correct. And it'll be installed on a horizontal rain screen. So that product is awesome. It should look extremely nice.
How's that apply?
Sorry.
How does that apply?
It's a horizontal rain screen, so basically it's built up in, on the plywood subframing to be pushed out away from the house with backer, 3/4 inch furring strips, and then there's a special UV resistant, UV proof paper that goes behind it, and then it's basically installed in a horizontal fashion and anchored to the house. So when you look at it, it just looks like horizontal siding, but it has that air gap that you want to allow the house to breathe. You know, a lot of these times people having rot issues and leaking issues and everything else, and using something like that is very helpful in combating water leaks to the house, just absolutely destroying the house no matter what here.
How long are those sheets?
How long do those come in?
Yeah.
20 feet, I believe. 20 feet long.
They have to weigh,
A ton, yeah.
they weigh typically a ton of it, that's 6 inch each way.
You aren't carrying it by yourself, absolutely not.
Are there any other questions? Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Trustee Cabrio?
Aye.
Trustee Pazmino?
Aye.
Trustee Gray?
Aye.
Trustee Backo?
Aye.
Trustee Rogers?
Aye.
And Trustee Suisse?
Okay. Motion carries. Now you've got everything.
You got everything? I have one more question while I'm here. I have one of the notes in the bullet point list that I have received from Michael, the engineer for the village. It was that the wall that is like landscape wall, that it will be on the west side of the property, the back side of the garage, can only be level with the ground and not, or the existing ground, and not come up. In order for us to achieve the drainage that we're requiring because of the size of the building and everything else, we have the BMP in the front, and we're asking that the wall along the west of the building be allowed to come above ground, basically 2 feet. So just a small area there. The reason being, everything to the east of the property, it kind of has a little pitch to the ground. So we need an area that we can put a wall, fill in with our drainage setup, and then be able to have the runoff, rain runoff that towards the back. And leaving the wall flush with the existing ground, it doesn't work, and it kind of messes up the entire drainage setup that we're going for.
I think that's above our,
Yeah, so that's something that is part of your final engineering approval.
So when I get to one more of these,
Yeah. So Michael's here in the back of the room. If you
Is he?
want to, yeah, if you want to, you can go back there and talk to him about that, and we can discuss that as an administrative approval.
okay, I just thought he was giving me another variance, so. Thank you.
Okay, to continue, is there a motion to approve ordinance number 20-017, an ordinance granting a variance to permit fiber cement siding on the first floor of a dwelling in lieu of exterior construction standards, requiring that stone or brick material cover 100% of the aggregate total area of all first floor or story exterior walls, exclusive of doors, windows, and associated trim, 75-67A, applicability and scope, type of building or structure. Chapter 75 buildings of the Code of the Village of Homer Glen for certain real property located in the R2 Single Family Residential District at 12807 South Taelevale Court, Homer Glen, Illinois.
So moved.
Trustee Gray,
A second.
Trustee Rogers. Discussion?
I have a quick question about on the back page of, or on page 2, I guess it is. It says, stone cladding and a stone sill will be installed around the entire bottom 3 feet of the perimeter of the property and carried up the fireplace in the rear of the home. And when I looked at the schematics, or the renderings, I'm sorry, there's no fireplace. And then I realized that's the same exact wording that was on the earlier gentleman's. Is that just a copy and paste?
The fireplace is actually a feet later.
I don't see it on these renders, so there is a fireplace?
Yes, in the front, it's in front of the house, but it's a heater layer, so it's actually built in. So you don't actually see a chimney coming out.
Is that like underneath this gable end wall or windows? Or there's a little vent sticking out or something?
Yes.
Okay. So that's considered a fireplace?
Yeah.
Okay. Isn't this it also says it's on the rear of the house. Fireplace on the rear of the home, but that says it's on the front of it.
Yeah.
So that is incorrect. Okay.
Taelevale has that home that's pretty much all EPIS back in there. If you've been back in there. No, if you take the rod back in there. So, I mean, it blends in with the neighborhood that, I can't remember, the Rudd home. I don't think they live there anymore, but it's, I would say it's 90% EPIS.
90% what?
Like EPIS.
Oh.
The EPIS, which is probably an old school word.
The
What he's
yeah, the
looking for.
insulated panels. The
Almost looks like Drive It.
Is there any other discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Kazmino.
Aye.
Trustee Gray.
Aye.
Trustee Backel.
Aye.
Trustee Rogers.
Aye.
Trustee Suisse.
No.
And Trustee Carey.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Number 10, ordinance number 20-18, variance for 13437 South McCarron Road, Homer Glen. Is there a motion to approve ordinance number 20-018, an ordinance granting a variance to permit fiber cement siding on the first floor of the dwelling in lieu of exterior construction standards required that stone or brick material cover 100% of the aggregate total area of the first floor or story exterior walls, exclusive of doors, windows, and associated trim, 75-67A, applicability and scope, type of building or structure, the Chapter 75 buildings of the Code of the Village of Homer Glen for certain real property located in the R2A Single Family Residential District, 13437 South McCarron Road, Homer Glen, Illinois. Is there a motion?
I'll motion.
I'll second.
Vehicle, Trustee Rogers. Discussion.
I just have a question, Mayor, because these variances are supposed to be based on a hardship, and these are not hardship cases. So that's why I don't agree with the variances, and that's, especially for the fiberboard cement. That's just a comment.
If I could make a comment, I agreed with Trustee Suisse that a hardship is one of the criteria for a variance, but it's not the only criteria for a variance. The local lay of the land is also another one that is germane, and this entire neighborhood is mixed up, and this will fit right in there. I know you and I have discussed this before, and we'll continue to, and that's a good thing because people should know where we come from. But to me, when I go out to this neighborhood and I look at it and I look all around, it's like this would fit right in. There are some areas where people have built to the letter of our ordinance, hitting all the stone and brick in an area full of nothing but framed inside the houses, and it looks like a French chateau on Bowery. It doesn't look right sometimes. So I think sometimes the sensitivity to the area is very paramount. So that's how I look at things like that. I would like to just point out one thing there. On the ordinance page, the first page of the ordinance page, our new trustee, Brock Apple's name is missing, so I don't know how we got that in, if it's just a matter of a clerical thing. So
Yeah, we will change that cover sheet before we file it. We have it on the page 4 and vote table, listed correctly, but we'll make sure before we codify that it's updated.
I'm looking out for you.
Thank you.
Is there any other discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Gray?
Aye.
Trustee Bacco?
Aye.
Trustee Rogers? Aye. Trustee Suisse? Trustee Cabrio?
Aye.
Trustee Pazzanino?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next will be resolution number 20-004, reduction of speed limit on 151st Street from Bell Road to Cedar Road. Is there a motion to approve resolution number 20-004, a resolution authorizing the reduction of speed on the limit of 151st Street from Bell Road to Cedar Road to 40 miles per hour or less as part of the 151st Street roadway widening project, and direct staff to prepare a resolution for the village board consideration to reduce the speed limit to 35 miles per hour from Bell Road to Cedar Road effective August 1st, 2020.
That's so moved.
Mr. Caprio?
I'll second.
Trustee Backel? Discussion?
I guess the only discussion point I guess I would make is I had called around and asked people that I knew in the area, speed limit wise, I think this was set to be up to 40 miles an hour for that phase 1. I had suggested 35, being that there's homes on the road, there's going to be at some point paths that go down or sidewalks. I think it's prudent, after speaking to also some of the trustees, that we acknowledge that this is going to be a village hall road style, even though we'll have a center turning lane. So I think it's adequate, and I think it'll be fine, and it'll give some consistency to the road, except for Trustee Gray, who drives fast. Oh, for sure.
I actually agree with you, Trustee Caprio. I think 35 is absolutely fine for that road. There's a lot of turn-ins, and they're very quick. And no one needs to go to 40, 45. There's no need for it.
Yeah, I think it's also important, this was taken off of the agenda, the last one by myself, because it was something that was brought up at public safety, and the public safety, the consensus there was that, and John Robinson, correct me if I'm wrong, but at public safety, people were leaning more towards wanting 35 as opposed to 40 on that road. And the meeting, that we haven't had those many meetings, and Trustee Holtz is no longer here to speak on that behalf, so I wanted to have a chance to speak to some of the other people on that committee, and that was, the consensus was that it was 35 miles an hour. Makes, one of the major things that you see at these public safety meetings is constantly it's speeding, it's speeding, it's speeding. It's never, we need it to be 40 instead of 35. And especially because I anticipate that people will try to take that street as opposed to 143rd Street, if and when 143rd Street ever goes under construction now, knowing where we're in the state of our state, if that'll ever even happen. But I think people will, like they did when it was 159th Street under construction, they're going to try new traffic patterns. They're going to come over here to 151st Street. So we need to keep those residents that are going to be using the bike path along 159th Street, whether even if it's just coming out of Woodbine and going into the park or going to the library, to keep them as safe as possible. And so I was an advocate for 35 as well, based on the feedback that I got from public safety and just my own personal opinion.
Yeah, just to add one more thing, we have events here, the banks, things will have at some point we'll all have events again. And rather than continually putting message boards out to lower the speed limit, we're going to end up probably going there one day if we do a traffic study anyway, so I think it was just a prudent decision to make now.
There's been several traffic studies on 151st Street. You know, we had those signs up there, and it's a speedway. I was on there when we had the speed signs up, and I mean the cars that we were clocking out there were just unbelievable how fast they were going. But that being said, we also had to take into account that they could have been police, because the police were pulling out of here to potentially go somewhere. So some of the numbers that we're reading off of there, we did take that into consideration, that they could be the police coming from here to go on to a call. But I just felt that 35 was a better way to go.
Any other discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Rogers?
Aye.
Trustee Suisse? Aye. Trustee Cabrio?
Aye.
Trustee Fazmino?
Aye.
Trustee Gray?
Aye.
Trustee Backel?
Aye.
Motion carried. Next would be intergovernmental agreement with Homer Township Road District for street light maintenance. Is there a motion to approve intergovernmental agreement between the Village of Homer Glen and the Homer Township Road District for light maintenance in unincorporated Homer Township? It is understood that the streetlights currently maintained by Homer Township Road District within unincorporated Homer Township will be added to the village's streetlight maintenance contract with Lyons Pinner Electric Companies or any future lighting maintenance contract, and that the Homer Township Road District will reimburse the village for the monthly maintenance fee, which is currently $4.25 per streetlight. Trustee Suisse?
I'll second.
Trustee Cabrio? Discussion?
I'm a little confused by this. Maybe somebody can give me some more cliff notes on why we're doing this.
I'll let Michael address it. This is really just a way to combine our resources and to extend the contract for another year.
Yeah, currently, the Homer Township Road District, they maintain their streetlights basically on a kind of an as-needed basis. So, County Commissioner DeVivo had requested, contacted the village and requested that just kind of as a cost savings to add their streetlights into our contract that we currently have for the village's streetlights. That way, instead of just being kind of an on-call thing and to get it a quicker timing, get the lights, any kind of down lights or maintenance issues with the streetlights in unincorporated areas, to get those back to operation as quickly as possible. And it, like I said, it is a cost savings for them to just have the regular monthly fee. And what it would be is they would just be adding it to, like I said, to our contract. We currently pay $4.25 per month per streetlight. The township, whatever number of streetlights, I believe, is approximately 90 streetlights that they have. So we would just bill them for the monthly cost of those 90 streetlights at the $4.25, and our contractor would maintain that.
I have a follow-up question for Mike too while you're up here. Are these just streetlights that are in the unincorporated streets? I know we have a lot of areas, pockets within the village that are unincorporated, but if there are streets, are the lights ours as well? Like especially, we looked months ago at that homeowner who wanted the larger garage over in Cedar Glen, I believe it was, and there's pieces and parts in there that are unincorporated, but are all the roads in there, those are ours and the lights as well?
It would be for the street lights themselves. There are some lights that are what they would be called beacon lights. They're ComEd street lights. Those are either, typically those are maintained by ComEd and charged to whoever had those installed. There may be private lights as well too. So this would not include any lights maintained or installed by ComEd or any privately owned lights. It's just the actual street lights that Homer Township, in a sense, the public lights that Homer Township maintains.
Right, but I'm asking like on a dedicated road in the village, if it serves areas that are unincorporated, that's still our road, right?
If it's unincorporated, no. We only...
How does that work in Cedar Glen? We found out last year, or earlier this year, I can't remember when that was, that, that there are pieces and parts in Cedar Glen that are unincorporated and their neighbors are incorporated. So the road that services all of them, is that a village road or is it hand off?
For the most part, typically when you
annex a parcel, you annex to the opposite side of the road. So there are probably, without looking at the map, there may be small sections that technically are not our road, but they would still fall under the Homer Township Road District.
So it could be lights that are technically within our village. You know, I think most people think when they think the unincorporated areas, you're always thinking of the fringes. You know, you're always thinking those little spots along the edges where you're never really sure if you're in or out. But really, theoretically, this is neighborhoods. This could be, you know, these could be roads and lights that will fall under our jurisdiction eventually anyhow.
At some point, they most likely will.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Suisse.
Aye.
Trustee Caprio.
Aye.
Trustee Kazmino.
Aye.
Trustee Gray.
Aye.
Trustee Backel.
Aye.
Trustee Rogers.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next would be ordinance number 20-19, amending addendum B, drug-free workplace policy. So is there a motion to approve ordinance number 20-019, an ordinance amending addendum B, drug-free workplace in the village's personal policy statement?
I need a motion.
Trustee Gray.
I'll second.
Trustee Caprio. Discussion. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Caprio.
Aye.
Trustee Kazmino.
Aye.
Trustee Gray.
Aye.
Trustee Backel.
Aye.
Trustee Rogers. Aye. And Trustee Suisse.
You are present.
Yes, no, present.
Okay. Next, approval of rules and guidelines for outdoor dining for restaurants. Is there a motion to approve rules and regulations for outdoor dining for restaurants? Motion.
Also move.
I second.
Trustee Caprio, Trustee Rogers, discussion. Well, I guess I could read them off. Probably would help. Effective May 29, 2020, under the Governor's amended executive order, restaurants are allowed to open for outdoor service only. The following guidelines, rules, and requirements will govern outdoor dining for restaurants in Homer Glen. The regulations are: the outdoor dining will be in conjunction with food service. Alcohol can only be sold with food. 2, tables shall be spaced to allow a minimum of 6-foot separation. Public seating and eating areas shall be reduced or reconfigured to allow for a minimum separation of 6 feet. 3, the outdoor dining area should be closed no later than 10 p.m. Sunday through Thursday and no later than 12 a.m. Friday and Saturday. The outdoor dining area shall not disturb the quiet enjoyment of nearby properties. Outdoor dining areas may use awnings, tents, and other top coverings that meet minimum village guidelines. Outdoor bars are prohibited. Except for restaurant visits and takeout orders, indoor premises will remain closed to the public. Masks will be required by dining guests to enter the restaurant premises for bathroom visits and takeout orders. All customer-facing employees shall wear masks. No groups of more than 10 people, including children, will be allowed. People in the same parties seated at the same table would not have to be 6 feet apart. Outdoor dining shall be limited to 50% of normal occupant load of the interior restaurant. Adequate parking for patrons must be provided without negativity impacting adjacent businesses as determined by the village's building official. Restaurants shall comply with all ADA accessibility requirements. Restaurant tenants must get permission from their landlord to use parking lots for outdoor seating. Outdoor seating in parking lots will require a safety inspection from the village prior to opening. Outdoor noise will be governed by the village's noise ordinance. For restaurants that want to utilize existing parking area lots for outdoor dining, the following procedures will be required. The site plan should be submitted to the village's building department for review. If a business needs assistance with the site plan or has a question, the building department staff will be available to meet on-site with the business to discuss options and village requirements. Each restaurant will be issued a temporary outdoor dining permit free for use of the expanded area per the approved site plan. The village and the township highway department are offering the use of free barricades for restaurants. Restaurants that are in need of barricades can contact either the building department or the highway department to arrange for delivery. That covers the restrictions. Are there any questions?
I have a question, Mayor. On the barricades, it says on the application, it says indicate number of concrete barricades if requested. So does everyone need, if they put a tent up on the side or whatever, that has to be barricaded by something, right?
Well, yeah, what we're gonna try and do is we have, I think Mike said that there's 40 barricades available. So anywhere where there may be vehicular traffic, in a location where people may be seated, we're gonna install a series of barricades. And we'll be determining that based on the size of their outdoor seating area. And I've already spoke with a few that requested it, and I'm meeting tomorrow morning with Mr. Vigo to go over a few of the initial requests that we had and delivery options for those barricades.
Joe, have you heard of any landlords that have given pushback to any tenants? Okay, that's good.
And so just to follow up on what Trustee Sweets asked, because I had the same kind of concern about the barricades. If they're not requesting them, but you're recommending them, you're going to insist on that before you're going to sign up on safety?
That is correct.
Excellent, thank you.
Any tent?
Pardon?
Any tent is going to be with the barricades. Because a lot of them have them already behind fences, they have it up on a little step, but you go over to Pelican Harry's, they have a tent, so they want to be able to barrier all the way around it. He's got bigger ones, and he's got smaller ones, this way a car couldn't pass it. Same thing with Taelevale and Glen. They're going to be doing the same thing. I don't know if the tent's up, it wasn't yesterday.
I think they're in the process.
Yeah, well, everyone's in the process right now, trying to get something. But yeah, for the barriers, I think it's a good idea to, for any one of the tented ones. The rest of them really don't need it because they already have the barricades.
And I have also talked to the fire districts regarding this, and safety with the barricades was a concern of theirs, and I'll be showing them the site plan and getting their approvals as well.
Right. But we do have all the approvals already, correct?
We're in the process.
Okay. All right, any other questions?
So I have a question, maybe a suggestion, being, I have a restaurant. So in the event, let's say you're outside, and I have a canopy, so it doesn't affect me as much as, like somebody else that has no covering on top. Let's say it starts thunderstorming and you're at full capacity that you can have. Everybody runs inside. What happens? What do you do? You just
let them get out of the rain?
Besides that, when you have them there, let's say it rains for half an hour, and tell them to go home.
I don't think.
The questions.
I mean, there's a possibility it could be a long period of time, but if you've got a thunderstorm and it's raining and lightning, I'm not going to chase the people into the.
It's good to know. It's stuff that we need to tell the business owners.
So, any other questions? We've had enough rain already. We want it dry. This way you get business, because otherwise you can't serve them inside. So, hopefully it doesn't rain for a while. And if it does, it's after business hours. No other discussion? Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Trustee Cabrio? Aye. Trustee Grazino?
Aye.
Trustee Gray?
Aye.
Trustee Backel?
Aye.
Trustee Rogers? Aye. Trustee Suisse?
Motion carries. Next would be workshop, discussion of 2020 economic recovery plan for the village of Glen.
Mr. Mayor, I can just give a brief summary. This was the last board meeting, there was a lot of conversations about reopening plans given the amended governor's executive order and there was discussion about holding a workshop. And so we scheduled this for tonight. We did provide some background information that's included in your packet. You have an updated revenue projection spreadsheet from Finance Director John Sawyers. He's here to answer any questions about that. We also, based on some previous feedback at previous board meetings about maybe the board giving putting a moratorium on basically temporary signs, so we did some research that was included in your packet as well. We took a look at what some of our peer communities are doing, and then we also made some suggestions that the board may want to consider to loosening some of those on a temporary basis. We also included a list of all of our licensed businesses by category. There's 311 brick and mortar licensed commercial businesses in the village of Homer Glen. You have that broken down, included for the board's review. And we also just included an updated list of liquor license holders as it relates to those that have been deferred their payments. Other liquor licenses for basically restaurants and caterers have been deferred right now until July 31st, 2020 for payment. And staff's available to answer any questions that you have.
Okay, Mayor, if I may, then can I speak on behalf of this as well?
Go ahead.
So I had met with a couple of the trustees just to kind of discuss a couple ideas that were being tossed around about how to help residents, businesses move forward through this pandemic. And I had met with Trustee Pasmino, and we had discussed signage. And I'm just a clerk, I'm not a trustee, but I don't know if I can propose something, but this little graph or whatever they have in here to talk about signage. Ruben, did you want to talk about this since this was kind of your little baby here?
Well, and first, I really want to thank you, because from what I've seen, you've really gone after this with vigor, and you've done a lot of the footwork. I know the village manager's also done a lot of work with the staff, and it feels good to know that, we're all in this together. So I personally want to thank you for all the work you put into this. Thank you. And Carl, of course, but you're the clerk. It's not your job. You're still doing it, and it speaks volumes. Thank you. So the proposition that we were speaking of was a package deal that we can offer the businesses, not only financially through waiving certain licenses and permits, maybe being a little more lenient on signage, granting us a little more leniency on certain banners and things that we didn't permit before, but are permitting now because of the hardships that all of the businesses are going through. And what we put together here, I don't know, did you want to just go through the signage part first, or from what you guys can see here, is there a way we could put this on the screen?
Jamie, can you go up and walk around through these sheets?
She doesn't have a mic. Ruben, would you be so kind to share your mic with Jamie?
Sure.
So what we're looking at, the table that was put together really just indicates that Homer Glen is really on a more lenient side already with our current temporary sign program, and that program works pretty well. But what the staff is doing is proposing to just open it up a little bit more for this temporary COVID recovery period. And so the idea would be that there would be a moratorium on the enforcement of temporary signs during this time period. And what we would do is allow one ground-mounted sign and or one wall sign on a business facade permitted for each business. This is actually something that our current program allows right now. Just for this part of the COVID recovery period, we would not recommend any inflatables, feather banners, hot air balloons, or any other fluttering, moving, rotating, or animated signs. We think that that sort of thing would be more appropriate for the grand opening or coming soon types of signs for new businesses. So separately, apart from the COVID recovery period that we're talking about, staff is proposing a code amendment that would allow that, and I'll go over that in a moment. But go ahead and just follow the current regulations for temporary signs. So for ground-mounted signs, our ordinance already allows 25 square feet in a ground-mounted sign. That's quite liberal compared to other communities. And placing it 5 feet from the property line, so it's clearly on private property. Landlord approval is needed just like normal, so that's the same, and there's no change there. But for this recovery period program, that would be the tenant's responsibility, and it would be by an honor system, which is not normal. Normally, we require a written landlord's approval for a temporary sign placement. And the reason for this is we're recommending no village permit is needed, and therefore no permit fee for this either. So it's a very simple process. Just follow the program that's in place and go ahead and use it. This means that you can have at the same time up to a 25 square foot ground mounted sign. You can also put a banner on your facade, and you can use both of those. And then the number of display days would not be counted against what is our normal temporary sign annual permit. That permit normally allows up to 91 days of display during a calendar year. So after this is all over with, if folks have a permit or they want to come in and get a temporary sign permit, they could start a 91-day period for what's left of the year. But during this time period, there would be no counting of days. And then we do have multi-tenant centers, so conceivably there will be many businesses wanting to do this. There could be more signs out there, so we do need to put in some sort of a spacing distance to have it all make sense. Our current program requires 50 feet of spacing, but that's not really going to work on some of our centers that have a shorter frontage, linear frontage. And so Joe kind of went out and took a look at a couple of the centers and came back, and we talked about it around the table, and the staff recommendation is to make it a 25-foot spacing between signs for any one multi-tenant center. That gives ample opportunity for numerous tenants to get out there and have their signs be seen and have it spaced so that there's some kind of logic to it. So the enforcement would only follow up with businesses that exceed the number of allowed signs or the type of sign, or if it's improperly placed, or any kind of other types of complaints related to these regulations. But it's really just trying to work with the existing framework that we already have. It's quite liberal compared to our other communities, and it's a good program. It's very business friendly, and just make it no permit, free. You can, and you have the opportunity to have more signs out there for the multi-tenant centers. And then this would be, the recommendation also is to come back in 90 days and review the status of what's going on, and does this need to be extended, or has that done its job? And so it's a temporary program. But we would already bake that into it so that there's an opportunity to bring it back to the village board. As I mentioned, temporary promotional signs for grand openings, this would be for new businesses only, so separate from the whole COVID recovery. So for instance, we had Mugshoys here this afternoon. When they come to open it, this is something that they could use. The staff is recommending a possible consideration to allow an additional sign for 28 days for either coming soon or grand opening. And in this case, this would require a sign code amendment, and the temporary promotional signs regulations as they apply would continue on. And that, there would be no changes to that program, but They could be augmented with a code amendment to allow for either one inflatable sign or one feather banner, one or the other, with a display time maximum of 28 days. And this is where, however, there would be the stipulation, no hot air balloons, any other kind of moving, rotating, or animated sign types would be allowed. So it would be strictly one or the other, one inflatable or one feather banner. And the recommendation on for that time period of allowance for display for either coming soon or grand opening would be 28 days, up to 28 days. So those are that's the proposed temporary sign program, plus a code amendment for new businesses.
I had comments, and I know Mr. Bader is code enforcer too. I cannot see giving for a grand opening feather banners. I mean, those are, you can't, they're so tacky. And I don't know, what do you mean by an inflatable sign? You know, you're not going to ask a business to spend $300, $400, $500, $600 for a feather banner and then say, no, you're only going to be able to use it because they're going to be popping up like mushrooms. And if you ever go into some of the suburbs that have them, it looks horrible, really bad. What do you mean by an inflatable sign? Because then it says here, no moving, rotating, or animal type of, or hot air balloons. What is, give me an example of what you consider an inflatable sign.
Well, I guess you see, I'm sorry? The gorilla?
Well, well, isn't that an animated sign? Isn't that, well, that would be like a gorilla or the mice or something.
Yeah, it would be something that is inflated with air and has expanded, but otherwise it doesn't.
So like a donut for Dunkin' Donuts.
Right.
Yeah, something.
Right.
I think we should be addressing this as two separate things. One is the
Okay.
COVID recovery, which we're in right now, and we want to try to react as quickly as possible.
And put this on the back.
Right, and the grand opening and the coming soon should be right. I think that should be part of our sign code ordinance going forward, that any business that opens, I appreciate that Mugshoys might be one of the first ones out in this COVID time as a grand opening, and I certainly appreciate that, but they might not be able to benefit from this particular portion of it, but I think we're going to have an easier time coming to some agreement if we say, let's put that to the side, the temporary signage for grand openings and coming soons. Let's put that on the back burner, because that really is part of our sign code. What we want to try to do is react as quickly and efficiently and proactively to what's happening right now. And we know that this will sunset. Eventually the world will return to some sort of normalcy. And given that, one of my comments about the 90 days is that for the, I think you called it the COVID recovery time, or the COVID recovery plan, whatever we might discuss, I would say that we should probably step away from calling it 90 days and start calling it a date certain, date start, date stop. Because somebody could put up that temporary sign in the 45th day, and they're going to go 45 days beyond somebody else. So if you have a sunset in there, an automatic sunset, that we can revisit if we wanted to as a board and reestablish that for another 30, 60, 90. I'm not necessarily that 90 is the number that I'm endorsing, but the number of 90 is not saying that you have to start on this date and you have to end on that date. It's kind of giving, just, and I know this is, we're looking at it from up above, but it gives somebody the opportunity to wait, and then, they would go beyond everybody else. So I think that, given that we're trying to treat that as a temporary kind of an active plan to address this, I think we need to make sure that we end cap it.
So one way to do that would just say, make the end date September 30th, or the board meeting closest to that, and have it come back to the board on that date.
So if I may, from someone who had spoke to a lot of the businesses the first time around when we were calling just to check on the businesses, doing a comfort call just to see how they're doing. As I stated in one of the previous meetings, number one thing that the businesses asked for was signage. They really want to push signage. I'm just gonna throw it out there. I really think that we should allow businesses for 90 days, and we'll start a set date, end date, June 15th to September 15th, June 30th to September 30th, however it may be. Everyone starts at the same time, anyone ends at the same time. I do like the staff's recommendations, but I think we need to allow more. I feel that, and although Sharon, you feel that the fin banners or flag banners or whatever we call them are tacky or not appeasable to you, I don't mind them. I like them. I think there's a few of them out there. Carlo proposed one that was a beautiful red, white, and blue, now open sign. I think it's great. I really think at this time it's 90 days. It's not forever. It's not for the rest of the village's lifespan. It's 90 days to help our businesses recover from this. Speaking from a business that I run, we are suffering. We are really suffering, and what is 90 days gonna cost you? A little bruise on your shoulder to say, oh, our village looked tacky for 90 days? So be it. I'm okay with that. That's my proposal. I don't mind if they have a blow-up little monkey or a little guy that wigs around like this, or yeah, obviously you don't want like a big rat out in front, or you don't want someone having, you know, name calling or whatever, but I mean, if somebody wants to put a floaty guy outside or a fin banner or a little sign out in front or neon signs, no, I understand, I'll respect the lighting thing with that, but if the business wants to go out and spend $300 on a floaty guy or whatever they want to do, let them do it. It's 90 days. We'll get over it. And hey, it will give the businesses a chance and the residents to say, wow, that really does look tacky. I'm glad Homer Glen restricts that. Or it can give the businesses or the residents a chance to say, wow, that looked awesome. I'm glad I didn't know that business.
It's two whole separate issues, but I do agree that we also need to do something for new businesses coming into town. I'm not very for the 98th thing, although I think our temporary sign ordinance, parameters are pretty good. I never really looked at it until I got that document, and now I realize that they're really competitive. It's just that we restrict of the style of sign. You know, I'm not a big fan of the big wavy guy. I'm not a big fan of inflatable. I just want something clean. Trustee Gray and I have had this conversation where, you know, if we open it up, you could have every business on 159th Street, which isn't a lot of them, but you know, you could have every business potentially have one of these in front of their business if they want to spend the $200, whatever the cost of a banner is. And if they do, so be it. It's a short amount of time for them to be recognized. They may not be happy with the fact that it just says open and it doesn't say Jiffy Lube or Lube. But I just think we need to be a little more relaxed on that.
So then,
but if we're meant to mirror that without a permit and
Right.
not counting those 90 days against your permit.
Correct.
90 days.
Correct.
So staff was not necessarily recommending feathers, inflatables, things of that nature for the COVID recovery program. We were only saying that we could look at that as part of an overall amendment to our sign code to allow that for the going forward future of our sign restrictions, saying that any business would be entitled to have a 14-day coming soon, a 14-day grand opening if we decided to do that. That was when I said, I think we'd be better off separating these two, leaving that one. Now, we can talk about what that 90-day COVID recovery, you know, what would be allowed. Is it only staff's recommendation on doing the 225 square footers for an unpermitted 90-day period? Or do we want to add to that? You know, but again, that would sunset, and then at some future point, we would have to take up an amendment to our sign code.
Yeah.
Because this thing, once it's sunset, it sunsets. You know, we let it expire, it goes away.
Right, and I'm saying to continue to amend the proposal for the restore.
Yes.
Yes.
yeah, I mean, I agree with Keith. We need to keep the two separate. I don't want to talk about the grand opening thing right now because I think that could get us bogged down and hinder us from maybe doing some of the things that we want to do. I'm open to what the staff is saying. I guess for lack of better words, kind of opening the floodgates here for the summer, letting these people do what they need to do. You know, I don't want to say, like Janie was saying, until it's over, because we have no idea when that's going to be. So I would, you know, say let's open the floodgates, let them do what they need to do, what they feel like is best to do, give them until the end of the summer, which I'd be comfortable with no later than, you know, September 15th, because I kind of worry about schools and all the other stuff that might come up, and
there might be additional signage that needs to come up. I don't know what's gonna happen with schools. But I'm open to 60, 90 days. I'm fine with it. I think we need to do whatever we can possibly do at this point. And I think we need to start now, like right now, because these places are opening, you know, I don't know about you, but I'm getting my nails done this weekend.
All right,
I have a question for Trustee Rogers. When you said these were the proposed guidelines for the temporary Restore Illinois, right here, and you said open the floodgates. What do you mean by that?
I am fine with whatever, I'm fine with the feather banners if they need to do that for 90 days. I'm fine with inflatables if they need to do that for 90 days. Signage if they need to do that for 90 days. As long as this stuff is maintained, because I tell you, I work in Crestwood, and it's a free-for-all out there. There's signs everywhere, and it's messy, you know, it is messy out there. And I'll be kind in saying that when you're driving down Cicero, because they're letting people do whatever they want to. And even on the Grange Road, the signs are falling over and they're falling down and stuff. And I get it. And thankfully, we hired another code enforcement person, so we have somebody that can, you know, go into a store and say, hey, can you fix that? And as trustees, we can do that too. Just go in and say, hey, we're trying to work with you here. We just need you guys to straighten that sign up. I'm fine with whatever they need to do for the next 90 days. But again, I'd like to see it start like this weekend.
The reason why I suggested June 15th was to give residents or the businesses time to buy the banners, to get their stuff in order, because if you start it, say, this weekend, the 1st, that's already clicking away at their time, and they don't have time to buy and order and get it back. That was one point. The second point I wanted to make, which I already stated, was give the businesses a chance to either prove us wrong or give them a chance to prove us right. One way or the other, it's going to be, they might say, you know what, this band or the sign stuff, yeah, it is out of control.
Well, I mean, I don't want to open up the door of changing our sign ordinance.
No, yeah.
I'm open to doing whatever we need to do to get our residents back on track, you know. That's why I don't even want to discuss anything relative to grand opening and stuff.
Right. No, I'm not talking grand opening, I'm strictly talking this COVID. And then the last thing I just want to remind is everybody up here, when we run our campaigns, we put signs out there. It's only fair. We're putting our sign out there to promote ourselves on every corner. I can honestly say, and Keith can attest to that I put mine in every single household that I know, and I didn't use right-of-ways, I didn't do any of that stuff. But we're out there putting our names out there to get a vote, to be up here to make decisions on what businesses can and can't do for their own signage. So what's fair for one should be fair for the other. So I'm still for letting them do whatever they need to do.
I'm fine with June 15th to September 15th.
Well, let's get a hard date set, and I agree with what Christina just said. You know, the people, all the businesses here, well, not all, a lot of businesses here have not made a penny since this happened. We've got to give an opportunity to let everyone know that everything opened up. The restaurants are getting at least a little bit right now, but you still can't go inside the building, which hopefully in the next couple of weeks that does change, and they give the same restrictions that they have now to where at least it could be 25 to 50% capacity. We got to give all the people that have been here for such a long time a break. Let them put the signs up. No one's going to know they're open or not because everyone's been driving by empty buildings for the last few months. You pull past the parking lot, you're lucky sometimes if you see 2 cars in there.
I mean, they're going to know. We're all watching the news, right? Everybody, every day at 2:30, I turn the news on. We have it on the radio. We know that the restaurants do this, and this. It's more about trying to keep them in Homer Glen.
Right.
You know, so maybe the nail salon might be saying, her sign might say, open 50% off, and I'm going to go in there before I go down to the next town. It's about, you know, I'm not delusional in thinking that people aren't knowing what's open and what's not open and things like that. And not only that, it's just, it's keeping them to shop here and stay here and really focus the importance on people shopping in Homer Glen right now.
Mayor, can we break it down into like a consensus vote on date and types of signs? Because there's multiple different kinds of signs. You know, when we talk about inflatables, we talked about the large gorilla or, you know, big donut. But, you know, are we still on the restriction on moving, or is it involving a feather banner now going to allow, I don't know what those inflatables are, that like
I think if you're gonna be doing it,
No, I'm
you're
talking
gonna...
about, yeah, waving, you know, the one that's saying like he's going to that.
I'm not a real big fan of that, but if this can... if
So by
brings
saying
attention to
inflatables,
it,
by just saying inflatables, like we would allow that up to the gorilla, basically. Or do we want to try to break it down with it?
I don't think we should try to break it down. Who's gonna police it? I would say that if you're gonna do it, the only thing that's restricted right now is electronic signs. Other than that, if they want to spend the money for them and put them up, but they have an understanding at the end of it too, after 90 days, it comes back down.
I mean, obviously, this is a workshop, and there's a lot of details that need to go into it. So, I mean, it's going to be extra work on staff. And
Well, if you're looking, go ahead.
We just need clear direction tonight, and what we will do is we will take that clear direction and we will put it into an ordinance that you will vote on June 10th for a moratorium on the enforcement of temporary signs for a certain period, specific period. I'm getting the sense that's where you guys are going. And if you want us to exclude any type of signs, we can include that in the moratorium as well. But I just want to make sure that we're getting the right information so we can draft this and bring it back for a formal vote on June 10th. And that would be, if you do June 15th to September 15th, that would give, we can let the businesses know it's coming, but that would give us time to get this in the right format for you guys.
Yeah, but it doesn't give them a lot of time to get something if they didn't buy it beforehand. You're giving them 5 days from the time we approve it to have it up.
Yeah, but I mean, that's the next board meeting. I don't have any other choice.
Right.
We can let them know that it's coming.
We can change the date.
You want to hold a special board meeting?
No. No.
Oh, you mean move it back?
We can move the date back a little bit so
I
you're
just
still
think June
getting...
15th. It's a Monday.
It could be June 30 and go on. Do we want to restrict the size of inflatables? I mean, do you want?
Or just say,
I
I mean, if, because I know, to say no inflatables, because we could end up with these big, huge.
Like the rat size.
Right. Big,
And some things with
That's
inflatables
union.
too, they do have lights, some of them on them. Sharon, I'm on your team right now. Some of them have lights that point up at the inflatable, and then there's also those lights that go like this. So
Yeah, no.
there should be some restriction on lighting.
That would be electronic.
No electronics.
No lighting whatsoever.
No, so even if they got this guy flying like this at nighttime, you're not gonna see it, you still don't want lighting. Okay. I mean, that's your guys' decision. I just wanted to be clear on that.
I have a suggestion maybe to see if this would work. So we could allow one ground-mounted sign and/or one wall sign on a business facade permitted for each business. In lieu of a ground-mounted sign, a business could choose to have either one inflatable sign or one feather banner sign. No lighting permitted, something like that.
I think opening up to the inflatables, think about the shopping centers. You know, there's 5 tenants in there and they all want a gorilla. You know, we're gonna have a problem. You know, and then you're gonna have, well, he got his gorilla before I did, so that's not really fair that he was able to get his because his, you know what I'm saying? I think that the feather signs are a little bit more safe.
Okay.
I also, speaking as a landlord in Homer Glen, the inflatables, there's a liability there for everybody because if those things take off in flight, there's issues, you know, and they can't be like mounted on the roof. That turns into like roof penetration type of things. I think it's just gonna, you know, it could start looking like Brookfield Zoo out there. If we stick with the feather banners, I think, you know, it's a good thing. I don't want to see the flags with the feather banners and whatever kind of signage they need.
Okay.
I think is a good compromise.
So how about this, one ground-mounted or one feather banner sign and/or one wall sign?
Yeah.
At the same time, no lighting permitted.
Yeah, but I have a comment on that. Can you imagine after this 90-day period, say things go better, goes away, can you imagine then people are still wanting to use all this junk that they bought, this visual clutter, and then you have code compliance running all over the village saying, oh, you can't use that anymore?
Well, I mean, it's just going to have to be clear, you know, that this is something temporary. If you choose to invest in it and you choose to invest, those signs are not cheap, you know.
Technically, they could come in then for a permit and use it for another
90 days, right?
And theoretically.
See, this was not, feather banners was not supposed to be included. Yeah,
Right, we would have to definitely we'd want to curtail it if you want to go back to what the original intent of our sign code is, that
Right.
only what's permitted by sign code in the
Right.
township. But those wall-mounted signs and the temporary ground signs would still be permitted
Right.
if they got a permit for another 90 days. And we could revisit this in September and see where the world is, and maybe we'll extend it ourselves, so that would give them just more time to analyze the
Yeah, we need to see what the world is like in September 15th. We could be back to him shutting everything down again. I mean, gosh only knows what's going to happen.
My other suggestion would be to change the last bullet point on this Restore Illinois time period. Forget about 90 days, because I think as soon as the board is able to approve a program and businesses are able to implement it, we should let them do it, would be my recommendation. So I would suggest we say temporary signs during Restore Illinois reopening can be displayed through 15 September, extension beyond 15 September is subject to village board approval.
Yeah, I like that language.
But I would still base it on, we really got to base it on June 3rd. By the time we get all this through board approval, and then they got over signs, they're not putting them up till June 30th.
It won't even be enabled until the June 10th meeting.
I mean, it can get out there and people can go, you know what, hey, and I watched the board meeting last night, they're going to do this, I'm going to go order mine. And then if we approve it on the 10th and they're going to put it on the 11th, put it on the 11th. I think just having an end date like Janie's suggestion is a good idea.
Yeah, I agree. Because people, I mean, restaurateurs are out there actively building things in their parking lot. And if I remember correctly, the governor's order is not necessarily ironclad that the 29th. It was, we're looking like we're going to open, we're going to go to these lesser restrictions on the 29th. So, you know, there was always the Damocles sword that it could be, you know, it could be rescinded. So they're working proactively, you know, even though it could, you know, and I think they'll get the same from us. You know, they'll see that we are working toward this and we're working as a board coming up with this. So this will be, you know, something that they can rely on, that it will pass on, you know, in June.
And Sharon, I know this is something that it is hard that you fought for many, many years, you know, with the signage, and I respect that. I respect the time and the effort that you put into this, and I hope you respect the fact that we're coming to a compromise without the inflatables, but we're saying we're going to do the feather band for 90 days. You know, and we're not looking to change this. We're just trying to help people get through this crazy thing that I don't think anybody ever anticipated. So I appreciate your understanding of it and hope that we can do some kind of a compromise where you can sleep at night.
So separately on the grand openings.
No.
Do you want to know? We'll have another discussion another time.
Another time.
Okay, all right, fine. If we're kind of finished with the temporary signs discussion, I have an item that is related to the 2020 recovery plan that I'd like to just bring up.
Yes.
Executive session too.
Yeah, the board was made aware of this issue previously.
Right. So along with the phase 3 reopening, health and fitness centers are now allowed to do either one-on-one training indoors in their spaces under certain restrictions and guidelines, or they can go to outdoor classes. For instance, yoga studios could have an outdoor session. One of our local businesses is interested in doing outdoor sessions, and I've been in contact with them, and they have difficulty because they're an inline business in a multi-tenant center with just parking lot and no area suitable for holding an outdoor class. And the restrictions on the indoor use during phase 1 is quite restricted. It's not just separating a limited number of people per square foot, but it's actually limited to one-on-one training. So if you, I'll just use a real-life example, for a 2,400 square foot space, which this business has, the state has said that they can operate at no more than 50% of occupancy or 5 people per 1,000 square feet. Well, in their 2,400 square foot space, that would be 12 people, but since it's one-on-one training, I was just speaking with Eric before the meeting. We're interpreting that you could probably only have like 6 teacher-student groups inside for a total of 12 people in that space, as long as you can maintain the social distancing and all the other things that they have to do. So it's quite restrictive. And in talking with Yoga Studio too, you know, there aren't that many people that are really signing up for one-on-one training right now. But people are dying to get outside and back into some regularity, and to give businesses like this, and there'll be others in town, a chance to get back to work. They're requesting if there's any possibility of using public workspace. And they would bring their own equipment, leave with their own equipment, and it would just be using the grass area. So I wanted to bring that up for discussion tonight because it's absolutely pertinent to what's going on with Phase 3. And we do have a number of health center, fitness type center type businesses where they may want to, this may not be the only business out there. So the question would be, for instance, is Heritage Park available? And this would be just only during the time of this recovery period, similar to the temporary sign program we were just talking about. Just another sector of businesses is not in our community.
Is this about the yoga people wanting to practice out in the park?
Yes.
Let them do it. That's what the park was built for, so people can use this thing.
But Mayor, I have a comment.
What do you think?
This is not just, I think there needs to be a policy and procedure in place before we allow profit type of operations on public property. I think there's insurance risks, additional insured. We can't just say, okay, you go charge. They're not doing this for free. They're charging their clients as a business to use our property. And I think we need to establish some kind of criteria or policy before we just open it up to everybody and say, oh, just run out there and, you know, have your, you know, charge you for your lessons or charge you for this. We need to also run it past, you know, like when we used to do events or have things going on, you have to go through additional insured, hold harmless agreements. Have we checked with our insurance company? We can't just open the floodgates and say, yeah, any business, do whatever you want out there.
Well, it's not having a business do whatever they want out there.
Yeah, well, but they're you know, they're charging their clients, and it's a usage that we have liability for. I mean, I think we need to do a policy or procedure before we open it up, because everybody else is, you know.
Yeah, because we ran into this at Parks, you remember, Ruben, with
The tennis people, like, hey, can I take tennis lessons, teach tennis lessons out there? And we're like, no, you can't, because you're keeping it away from the residents. So with the yoga people, you want to go play in the grass, like, I get it. But what she's saying is like, okay, now all of a sudden it's pickleball. I mean, you're going to show up and go, well, you know, I'm going to do my pickleball here now, and I'm going to do, you know, that's the issue.
What Jamie is saying, this is only during the Restore Illinois program that we're putting end cap dates on of June 15th and September 15th. And also, this is one of those businesses, those types of uses that the governor is loosening a restriction on, but he's enacting another restriction saying you have to be 10 feet apart, you can only have 10 people. That becomes a very large square, and most of the yoga studios are not going to be equipped for something like that. When I was initially asked about this, my first reaction was, it really does not, it doesn't bother me to use the park in this Restore Illinois time for that purpose. I am sensitive to using the parks any other time for giving for-profit tennis lessons or, you know, soccer, things of that nature, because then you're keeping that park from the people who paid for it, and I don't think that's right. I think right now, we're trying to be good stewards of the public land and help our businesses and stay in tune with what the governor is putting out there as far as these restrictions go. I'd like to see some other restrictions, though. The governor says you can have a group of 10 feet apart, and you can have multiple groups. I'd like to see a number, you know, maybe 2 groups. Because again, that square gets kind of large, so if I'm Refresh Yoga and I come in and I can get 2 squares, let's say, you know, because then that's also sensitive to, let's say, Refresh Pilates or something. Somebody else, like you said, might want to come in, and somebody has reserved, you know, a whole grove or something else.
Yeah, I think, yeah, now that you're saying that, I think the way that we could get around it is we could add verbiage that the licensed businesses in the village are allowed to use the park. Because then we don't have to worry about John Smith teaching the tennis, you know, all we'll have is Anytime Fitness doing group fitness classes out there, or
only again during the COVID.
Right, and they have to be they have to be an existing registered business owner. I think that's the way to kind of get around that loophole.
I personally think we need to check on the liability and all that.
We can check on the we can make a phone call to the insurance company and ask them. But when you start thinking about it, it could be, then anyone who goes out there and uses the park, we should get them to sign something, because God forbid they trip and fall on the street, they can sue us.
I'm just not sure if it has additional liability. We'd probably get a fine.
Right, because this is different. It's not just people out in the park. This is a business conducting business out in the park. So I think we need to check with the insurance company to see if there's any type of hold harmless agreement or something that needs to be signed.
We can ask them this way, we're covering ourselves and them, but I mean, it's a yoga and they're going in the grass.
I'm thinking more of a personal trainer going out there, I don't know what they would use, but, you know, because they have to be one-on-ones, so, you know, you could have many one-on-ones.
You can do group fitness outside underneath his,
Karen, could you do me a favor, call our insurance company tomorrow, see what they say about it, see if it's covered, see if we need an intergovernmental agreement, or if we can have a hold harmless. It doesn't make any sense. Yes?
I just want to say, we've had residents call and request if they could have yoga get-togethers in the park. And we have said that, well, at this time, you have to limit the group to less than 10 people, and we weren't opening the parks for those things. So if you have businesses there doing that, and you have residents, you know, you just have to have some kind of a control of who is using the park at what time.
It's 100 acres.
I know, but you're going to have 10 residents show up?
And it does say that a business that's going to do it has to kind of cordon out their area, is that correct?
Yeah, and what we can do is we can still work with each of our businesses and tell them to come to us, and we can issue like a special event permit, no fee, where we say, okay, tell us what you want to do. We can figure out where they need to do it. In the grassy area, obviously, where they're not going to be impeding the public enjoyment of the park. And then if we need to get them to sign a paper that indemnifies the village, we can just include that as part of the process.
So it's all, this is a phone, it's a simple phone call to find out whether or not this could be done. If there is a liability, we want to make sure the liability doesn't fall on us.
And we can bring that back on June 10th too as well, to the board.
I just want to add that I know the township went through this with the soccer organization on one of their parks. So Pam might have some more information on the legalities of it if anybody wants to call her.
Well, I will say that they reached out to the township first and they were told no, they couldn't do it.
Yeah, there were some issues back in the day with the soccer.
Yes, we did. All right, is it all right with you, with the rest of the trustees in here? If we check with the insurance company and the insurance company says we're good, if they want to sign the affidavit saying that there's no responsibility on our end, then is everyone okay with it?
I'm fine with it.
Yes. Because I mean, Jesus, it's a park. That's what we bought this thing for. It's for people to enjoy it. And if you really want to make it interesting, then if a resident comes up and just wants to join in, they should be able to join in. I wouldn't be one of those people because I wouldn't be able to get back up like that over the way they do. So as long as everyone's okay with that.
I have one other thing to touch base on, George. There was 4 sheets of paper put on your desk, and these were just notes that I have been taking based off of questions that I had received from business owners that heard rumble of waiving this license or that license, or what the village's plan was going to do, and trustees asking questions on getting back to them on numbers. So I just want to do this quickly. We have 311 businesses that have $30 business registration licenses that total $9,330, and that's brick and mortar businesses, not home businesses. We have 22 tobacco licenses that cost $250 each, totaling $5,500. We have 12 gaming licenses. They all vary on how many machines they have, and that's $42,500. Liquor licenses on a short list, this goes to bars and restaurants. We have 25 of them, and again, their liquor licenses vary in cost, so that would be $45,500. I broke them down into each individual sheets of paper for you. The question was, when Trustee Holtz was around, about waiving certain liquor licenses, and then that kind of spiraled into, well, I have a tobacco, well, I have a gaming, what are you gonna do for me, that sort of thing. So I know that some people had suggested just waiving all the fees, and if you look at the 3 sheets that I had given you, I had done a prorate. If there was gonna be any type of anything that we were going to do, I did prorate it for the 3 months and 4 months, because when I did this originally, I didn't know this was gonna go into a 4th month that would affect our businesses. But you can clearly see the numbers for the liquor, gaming, and tobacco. If you were to prorate the liquor licenses, or gaming or tobacco licenses, not including the 4 months that those businesses were affected. The next thing I was going to talk about, because we were talking about ideas on what to do to help residents, businesses, and then circle back to the village. I came up with an idea, or I'm actually mirroring an idea that Crestwood had come up with. They called it Crestwood Bucks. We could do something similar, Homer Bucks. I put it out on a spreadsheet for you guys here. We have 8,561 homes, which do include all the seniors in the senior villages that we have. Just to throw out some numbers, if we did $25 for each resident, or I'm sorry, not each resident, each home, which includes the seniors, it'd be about $214,000 and $214,025. If you did $50 per resident, or I'm sorry, again, per home, it'd be about $428,000. The reason I'm bringing this up is because I have been approached by many residents, many businesses, saying, what are we doing for our seniors? What are we doing for our residents? How are we helping? I have neighbors that are suffering. I have businesses that are suffering. One of the questions were, you know, what's the budget? What can we do? How much money do we have to work with or play with to help out everybody as a whole? Residents, including the seniors, businesses that have tobacco, gaming, or liquor licenses, or just regular businesses. So I put together a whole spreadsheet for you guys. I did every breakdown which way possible that you can think of. I know we have executive session tonight, and I don't want to dig into this any further because it is getting later, but I would really appreciate if you guys can just look into this, read all the information, tell me what you think about it, and get back to me and let me know, because I don't want to work on this anymore if it's just going to go down the drain. But if there's some light at the end of the tunnel on this, then I would keep moving forward.
John, how much have we lost so far this year with COVID?
Well, it's very difficult to say because we're 90 days arrears on sales tax. So we still haven't even received our March sales tax. The projections that I put forward in that little packet are March and April of 2019 is our base index. We don't even know what, we don't have that current information. The only thing we know is we just received our April income tax allotment, which is really going to be backed up to fiscal 20, and that was approximately $200,000 less than the budgeted amount. Now, April, that is our largest amount, but just initially, we're forecasting about an $800,000 revenue shortfall in the general fund, which is the very important fund for the outside world, underwriting, and things like that. But of course, MFT and Park Fund, they're all, I think the total is 1.1 in aggregate. Sounds awful, but had we not made an adjustment, we made about a $550,000 adjustment in March, or April actually, to this budget, we'd be looking at closer to $2 million. So we don't know, we're watching, and watching closely, and as time goes on, we'll get better data. The biggest wild card, in my opinion, is income tax. That's a number that I'm not privy to. It's state numbers. Sales tax I get plenty of information on, and we can always adjust and move forward, or we can remeasure. It's that income tax number that's, it's a big wild card.
All right, if you could consider what Christie's explained, We're not gonna talk about it anymore tonight.
Yeah, and Mayor, if I could just add to that, John, do you have these spreadsheets that Christina gave us?
No, I don't.
So can you?
I put it, your chair wasn't there, I do have a copy for you, but your seat
So if
wasn't
you
there.
could give us
Yeah.
if you could give us your input on that as well, just some guidance on what you think is coming in, like Christina said, she doesn't want to work on it, it's gonna die, but also if we find out at the end of the road that there's a forecasted bigger deficit anyhow.
Christina,
we make that a moot point.
maybe you and I can get together tomorrow and merge our two ideas like we talked about. And
Yeah.
get something formal written up for them.
Yeah, I would like to do that with everybody. I had met with Carlo, I had met with Ruben, I talked to you very briefly, and Beth very briefly, but I haven't been able to talk to the rest, and I've talked to Carrie and George. But like I said, there's so many ways you can spin this, I just don't know what, like John just said, we don't know what money we have to play with because we don't know what's coming in. But if there is any room to help out residents, I think that should be our forefront. That should be the first thing that we should be looking at and considering. Because like I said, there's not only businesses struggling, but there's also a lot of residents as well.
Every little bit.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there any old business?
I'm gonna do that next. I'll do that in June. Remember I told you earlier, but I'll do it in June.
Okay, that's fine. Is there any new business? Okay. Then, the next item is executive session. Is there a motion to go into executive session for the purpose of discussing purchase or sale of real property and executive session minutes? And pending litigation.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.